We'll come to order at 5 o'clock. Happy New Year, folks. Great holiday. Everybody gets a fresh start. Parker.
Yes.
We got your first on the agenda.
Yes. Concerning the use of the townhouse for the squeaky sneaker program.
Did you catch that?
No.
No. Okay, we got
Use of the townhouse for the squeaky sneaker program. I reserved it approximately a month ago. Thought it was all set, being a rec program and a town program. And I guess there's some question about the fee, whether it will be waived or not. I called Willie.
Yeah, and I wanted you to bring it into the board.
That's why I called you. I said, do I need to bring this into the board?
Yeah.
So I found out about this last Friday,
Yep.
so that's why I'm here.
What did we decide on this? That
Well, do they have an application?
It's right there.
And you're not, who's charging the money for it?
It's the Camp Hawkins Carroll County YMCA. It's a 10-week program for children a year and a half to 3 years old. They offer, it's a class of activities for developed motor coordination, balance, hand-eye coordination, socialization, a chance for parents to meet each other with children of a similar age. It's a program we've been doing at least as long as I've been rec director, even before that. The fee is $50. It's for 10 weeks. It's an hour each day. For that $5 per class, they provide all of the instruments, the mats, the slides, the parachute, arts and crafts materials, as well as a snack.
This is in my application.
This goes strictly, I mean, you don't have any direct involvement other than the building.
And I do go and help out with class, yes.
But they're making, I mean, none of the money goes through the town books or anything. It's all goes right directly to the Carroll County YMCA.
Mm-hmm.
Did they provide us with a copy of liability?
I believe they did, yes.
We have it? Yes.
what do we decide on this? That nonprofits don't pay the fee, or they have to petition to not pay the fee?
They have to petition to not have the fee charged.
And then rec department programs, was that ever come up?
Well, that's the question. Does this fall under rec, or does it fall under Carroll County YMCA?
I thought that one and the Strong Living or the Tai Chi, whichever one.
Mm-hmm.
Tai Chi
I thought
didn't-
both, it was Strong Living and that
Yeah.
they both were rec programs. I thought that's what we decided months ago.
Right, they're not rec
Those two
programs.
were rec programs. The Strong Living and that one. But-
Sounds like a no-brainer to me. I make a motion that we waive the fee.
Second? I'll second it. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And is
Did I
this,
get a no or 4 yeses?
Yes,
I suggest.
I didn't get Willie.
yes, sorry.
It's a good program. We've done it for
Absolutely.
years. We have 5 or 6 registered at this point. Usually we pick them up as we go along. It's starts next Monday from 10 to 11. And
Did they receive a copy of the new,
yes.
all the new?
Yeah, they did. And
Okay.
she signed down there acknowledging she had read it.
Okay.
I actually took it to them and had them both read it, Jody and.
Somebody needs to write on it
I
that
gotta-
was waived.
there's a kid in my neighborhood who's gonna be 22 years old in June. I can remember her mother taking her to squeaky.
Yeah, it was around even before I was rec director. It's a good program. It's a good opportunity for parents, especially in the winter time, to meet other parents with kids of a similar age.
It's a no-brainer.
Do you know what time the hours are
Yeah.
on
It's 10 to 11
Thank you.
on Monday. Yeah, and I booked it with Barbara at least a month ago.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
this, good deal. We're gonna do department budgets, and we'll remember to shut up and folks, if you remember to boom it out so everybody can hear everything. Brenda?
Yes, how would you like to progress with this? The first, me talk a few minutes, then you, okay.
Sure.
You notice my budget next year is within like $50 of what it was this year. Would like to, obviously, I know there are budget constraints for everybody, and I'm like everybody else, I don't want it to be my budget, of course. We try to be as self-sufficient as we can be. This year, the program actually cost the taxpayers of Tamworth about $1,100. The rest of it was funded by the foundation and registration fees. I know there was some question about the amount of children we have from out of town. We are about the only town program left. And a lot of that is because they can't get instructors. But I just want to say that we have had out-of-town students for well over 35 years. Not maybe the amount we have now, but even, it's funny, I was thinking about this the other night. Peter Ames, who would be a name for most of you, he and Joan chose to bring Brittany to us all those hundreds of years ago because they liked the program better than what was offered in their own community. Vicki Forsyth is another one. You know, we've had a lot of those. And yes, as other town programs have stopped, we have more. But we have a lot of people who come, in all honesty, because of the program itself. It is, and the kids, when they finish, if they choose, they swim the lake. And this year we had 2 young ladies. It's a 1.5 miles across there and back. Yeah, so of course I think it's, you know, I would love to answer any questions or concerns or anything anybody had.
I assume that's White Lake.
White Lake, yes. Yeah.
One question I have, and I'm not seeing it in here, and just because I haven't had a
Spit
chance
it
to
out, that's
look
all.
through it, and that is the revenue. I'm just trying to look in our revenue sheet
Okay,
to see
yeah.
where your revenue comes from.
$2,500 from the foundation. And this year my registrations were 36 something, Willie, maybe 3640, 36 something. And the registration is one of those, I never know. You know, it depends on in town, out of town, but yeah.
So do you charge the same for the in-town and out-of-town?
No, 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 no.
In-town?
Out of town pays twice what an in-town person pays.
So the total budget you spend for the whole swim program is the 7270,
73.79.
or 7379 last year.
Yeah,
Looks like it's down a little bit this year.
yeah.
So,
Anybody else?
One of the things that is that I think we need to talk about sometime is some type of protocol, because I always assumed this was something sort of different than a town swim program. And as you know, with Parker, we've requested that we have a little more documentation just to cover the town in case something
Absolutely, I'd be happy to meet with anybody or
heaven forbid.
everybody and work on it.
Yeah, drop some type of, you know, so that we know what your teaching
Procedures and-
program is,
right.
and, you know, some
Be happy
sign-in,
to.
sign-out sheets, just so that we have.
Yeah, I
Whoever
already
is there.
have a sheet that Kathy gives me that we document time in, time out.
Right, and I'm thinking also for the participants, just so that,
Attendance is taken every
Well,
day.
attendance
Yeah.
is taken every
Right.
day.
Right.
And
but I mean, I don't
recorded.
know if any of that ever comes into the office, is my thinking. You may have that record at home.
My attendance?
Right.
No, it has never been requested. I guess I could
I'm
turn
not
it.
saying that it had.
No, I'm just saying.
Can we talk about procedures? We're doing the budget. We can always sit down with you and talk about
Yeah, I'd be
procedures.
happy to come back.
Thank you.
Yep,
Sure.
but if anybody has any more budget things,
I'm just pleased that you're switching us around, saving some money by not forking out money to the American Red Cross, which has consistently downgraded that program. So it's, for all intents and purposes, designed.
because we refuse to downgrade.
Right. I mean, you know, that it's for kids who swim in mommy and daddy's country club pool. It's not for open water.
It's not for what we do here.
Correct. No, it's not. It's not good preparation for, I mean, your program is, but the Red Cross program of late is not. Any other questions for Brenda? Yeah.
I just have a question. I always thought it was just Tamworth kids, but
It's never
what
been
is-
just Tamworth kids.
Well, my kids never did it, so I just didn't know.
Right.
But I just wanted to know if, what does our Tamworth Insurance think of other towns bringing their kids? Does our insurance cover for all the other kids from out of town?
Yeah, it would cover the program.
Program.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Sharon, election registration?
Yes, if I'm reading this correctly, the advisory committee had questioned the amount on training that I had in. Maybe that's the only line.
Training and mileage.
Yeah, I don't, you know, under the salaries for supervisors and the fees for moderators, I have training kind of put into that, so I don't know what this, training and mileage 200 or 300 was for. I'd like to keep something in there on training, even if it isn't used. Because I know that when my term expires, I think that's in about 3 years or something like that. At this point, I won't file again because there's 6-year terms, and I'll be an old lady up in my 80s somewhere, and you don't need that, you know. Although I'd be willing to work to help somebody else get on board, but, you know, work just as a volunteer, but, somebody coming on as a new supervisor will need training. And whether they can get all of that online just at home, or whether they'll have to go to Concord for it, I don't know. But I wouldn't want a precedent to get started where there was nothing there and they had to come begging for money so that they could learn what they need to learn.
Does NHMA provide that training?
It's the Secretary of State's office.
And there's, they charge for that?
I don't know that they charge for it, but we have to put in time.
But there's
If-
mileage and.
If we go to Concord, it's mileage.
Yeah.
If it's online, it's still time.
So if you want to keep something in there,
I'd want to keep something in there, but as I submitted the budget, like under supervisors' salaries, I've got 200 in there for training for supervisors and 100 for training for a moderator. And that's the only training that I put in.
Well, it's right here on your paperwork that you submitted to us. Training, $200, mileage, the fourth thing down.
So, yeah, so maybe that was the mileage and not training, I don't know. Let's see, the supervisor's salary. $23.30. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's probably something that could be cut back this year by some, as long as everybody realizes that some year in the future, it's gonna become a factor. And if it grows out of nothing, I don't want.
We probably should take it though out of the salary. If it's included in the salary above,
Yeah.
we can't be, it's not salary if they're doing training, so it's in both places. It needs to be one or the other probably.
Yeah, yeah.
So then you can drop this.
And
So
I don't
if
know
you
whether
drop
the
the
moderator
salary.
goes for training or not. He should if he doesn't. That's why there's $100 in training for him, but I would see $300 in training as being a good figure to have, so that people could get training.
But there's no changes coming this year,
What-
is there?
I guess my question is, how many elections did we have in 2018?
This year, one,
This coming year, we only have one election.
right. This is
How
our
many did we
off-
have last year?
Last year, we had 1, 2, 3.
3.
And in 2 years, we'll have a presidential primary on top
So
of
we'll have
everything else.
3 again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm
Well,
looking
well,
at.
we'll have 4 in 2 years.
I'm looking at in 17, the actual expenditures was $3,026. Last year, the expenditures, the way we have them to date, I believe,
It's 5,930.
is 5,900 and something. So, and we appropriated $9,232 for this 2018. So, and you have the most recent expenditure was 5,000. So that looks like about a $2,000 to $3,000 difference that you've appropriated more than you needed for this year, which, you know, it's back in the bucket. But I'm looking at the $4,396 and wondering if that just couldn't come down. I'm looking right at the bottom line of the budget. You know, you can monkey around all day long with moving money from one line to another line. Is there any way we
I
can
would-
establish a lower number at
I'd
that
look
point?
at 1917's budget as compared to 2017's budget as compared to 2019's request, because it's a similar year.
Well,
It's
you've
the
got
off year.
$1,370 more.
Did the supervisors get raises last year? Last year?
Last year or the year before?
I thought it was
maybe.
last year, so it might have been the year
Yeah.
before, because that would make a difference.
Just on, and so did the moderator.
Right, that would make a difference between the differences between the top salary lines, because I thought there was a raise given to.
But it's still, if you're looking at 2019 and 2017, if we had those raises, which I don't remember in 2017, it wouldn't make that much of a difference on the total budget, because it was only one election that year and one town meeting. And that's all that
Could you
we'll have.
backtrack and tell me the salaries line, other, that we should scratch because that is in fact training?
Other was created back when Brad Hall was still alive, but was no longer on the board, but was willing to help. And even though he never would accept the money, I guess it was felt at the time that something should be in there in case, you know, I mean, he certainly deserved something, but he never asked for it.
Backup sheet that's in your
Yeah.
book.
And I sort of suggested that wasn't necessary, but I don't know. If I am off the board in a few years and I'm still living in town and willing to help somebody, I don't necessarily need compensation for that either, you know. It's,
Would you be willing to drop the bottom line down, say to 3,500? It'll be more than what was in 17 by $400 and some odd dollars,
you know,
but
if
yet.
you can figure out where to take it out, I mean, line item by line item.
Well, like we said, line item by line item, yes, they're lines, but they're movable lines.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
where they
right,
wanna put
right.
the difference, it is whatever, but that would be,
You know, I would say that I wouldn't have a problem with that.
that'd be roughly a savings of $896.
Yeah. And of course, the thing that we're pretty sure that we won't have any special elections this year, but you never know, you know?
Well, that's why I
A
wouldn't wanna
representative
take it all the
could
way back
resign or
down to the
drop dead or
17
something,
budget.
let's hope not, you know? I look at Sandwich and that area and think if Dick Stewart had won his bid for election to the State House and he died on December 30th, they would have had a special election already.
So you agreed to drop the bottom line to 3,500.
I'm willing to do that.
And then I think, if you wanna either come in and do it with us, or, I mean, I just see here that we could take the training out of salary, that's $300, it shouldn't be in salary anyway,
Yeah,
in my
yeah,
opinion.
Yeah. I'll come
So
in
there's
and talk
certain
to you
other things
about
that we can,
Yeah.
I'll be happy to work with you, and
Yeah.
so it looks.
That's my only concern,
like
is
you-
just that
like
we
you want
don't
it to
go
be.
way over on some line and
Well,
even though we're
it is
under on another.
It is a bottom line budget, and that's fine.
Yeah.
If you are, you need to show your true expenditures, which is fine.
Mhm.
But if you wanna come in, we can work on that.
Okay.
Okay?
That's fine.
How fast conferences?
Thank you.
And what's the going mileage rate?
3.5 cents, I think.
I don't myself know anymore how we do it for training. The last training I went with Kim, so it was her mileage.
Mhm.
And I guess we put in the time that we were at the training,
Sure.
or I did.
Right.
But it seems like when I first came on a long time ago on the board, it was a toss-up. I don't know that we put in for mileage, we put in for time, so from the time we left Tamworth till we got back to Tamworth, you know, if we didn't dally around in Concord or something. I don't know.
Excuse me.
So maybe that sometime needs to be defined a little bit. too.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Sharon, very
Thank you.
much.
It's good deal that you would help with the line items, because I'm having a little bit of trouble.
Well, she has also in her sheet that she's having 3 elections, but then she said there was only 1, so maybe we could drop that down to 2.
Well, it's like
You know,
printing
so-
and stuff too. The
Well-
printing supplies, if you look at the previous year, they've upped that versus what it was,
Right.
what they actually spent and stuff. I'm sure we can find it.
What does an election cost us? What does one election cost us?
I don't know.
How many elections did we have this year?
3, 4,
3.
town meeting,
An election doesn't
Primary
co-
election.
oh,
3.
so an election doesn't cost us $2,000.
Was it town meeting?
You know, maybe if she sits with you,
Yeah.
we'll find some more, you know, I don't know what the salary.
Conservation Committee?
Well, are you clear on this budget?
Yeah, Conservation Committee?
No, it's cemetery, it's,
Yeah, conservation.
Conservation.
conservation,
Okay.
And that'll be cemetery.
yeah. I'm still not quite sure how that election,
We'll get through it.
whatever, we will. Thanks, John. You've read the recommendations for the, from the budget advisor.
Conservation.
Conservation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Conservation.
Sorry.
Cemetery.
We got added to the cemetery, and I thought it was.
Yeah. All right, that's John and myself. You've got the 2019 budget in front of you that we requested. It's a little bit different than last year's, and largely because we combined some of the line items to make it easier to deal with, but the bottom line is the same. The Budget Committee has 2 recommendations. One, that we would drop the summer camp scholarship line and reduce the amount for the professional fees from $1,300 to $450. We would like to keep the $700 for scholarships because we tried to work on a summer camp for, in conjunction with Tin Mountain for students in the 11 to 13 range next year. That's still in the talking stages, but if we don't have that, we can't do that at all. Now, the professional fees, it goes up and down. Lately it's been down, but I know that there's at least 2 fees coming in. But we can live with that one. I can reduce the budget to $450 because we can use funds out of our conservation fund for that. We cannot use conservation funds for scholarships. That is not according to the state RSA.
So you said you drop it to 400?
450.
450, sorry.
That's a guess. So we would be asking for 7,040 as a bottom line.
I'm sorry, say that,
7,040.
no, isn't, 450 from 7,000.
No, it's 1,300 to 450.
Oh, okay,
It's $850 difference.
yeah, I was looking at that one, okay.
Otherwise, everything else is the same.
You're $90 different than what I came up with.
Sorry?
You're $90 difference than what I came up with when I went through. Made a couple of lines, that just this line, this line, this line. So
Okay.
our bottom lines are within $90 of each other.
Okay.
The website expense, you run your own website in
Yes.
conjunction with the town's website.
Oh, we have our own website. And that one is, that was paid for 3 years, last year before, so there are very little expenses until 2020.
I mean, we do have the new town website. We're
Right.
trying to get everybody to swing over that so we don't have
We can do that.
additional expenses.
Well, I
for the
can't do
website.
that, but I,
Well, no,
we
but-
got somebody to help us.
Right, well, but the idea is that we can consolidate
Okay.
and make it so. You know, we need to arrange that before 2020.
Can do.
Yeah, good.
Further questions? Yes.
Just reiterating, because it was discussed during the fire and rescue one a couple of weeks ago. But the committee recommends that a memorandum of understanding regarding the Great Hill Fire Tower.
Oh, the Conservation
Yeah.
Commission and the Fire
Yeah,
Department.
yeah, just so it's in
And,
paper somewhere.
And wireless service. Memorandum of understanding for all three, and we mentioned that last year from Budget Committee too, that.
Okay, you want a memorandum of understanding between the town and the people who are using it, is that?
No, there's confusion of who takes care of what, and who gets billed what. So just a memorandum of understanding between the fire department, the Conservation Commission, and the wireless group of who's responsible for what. So when a
Okay.
question comes up, everybody knows who's responsible for what. So
Okay. That's pretty
you don't
simple.
get hit with a big bill saying, oh, you know, the stairs need replaced, because I know you guys have replaced stairs, the fire department's worked on it. Wireless has worked on it, but that's we're hoping to get that done, just so it's
Okay.
clean.
That shouldn't be a problem.
Do you wanna do one? You're gonna write one, you said?
Well,
Sure.
I think perhaps Matt Surge better write one.
Okay.
As I understand it, TCC does maintenance, upgrades, you're the one that put the new panoramas out.
Right.
And fire department has the video camera.
The fire department has their own equipment up there,
Right.
and they have the cam. And the wireless group has their equipment up there.
Right.
And they're, of course, responsible for all of that. And the fire department put in some new flooring when they put in their most recent equipment up there. And so they were responsible for that. Now, the commission takes care of, you know, whether a step needs to be replaced, which is the last thing, painting, which was several years ago, removal of wasp nests, those types of things, but we don't have anything to do with the other equipment. You know, that's strictly the fire department and the wireless.
And that's basically why the memorandum of understanding, so nobody says, hey, my equipment got damaged, the TCC's taking care of it. No, they're not responsible for equipment. So if you just write a list of things that you do up there and give it to Darlene, then we can
Okay, I
get
can do
working on
that.
a memorandum of understanding.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Further questions? What do you think, Dan? Should we move on?
Yes, we should.
Okay, good. For the love of God, it's a cemetery.
I don't have cemeteries.
We got, John, are you up tonight?
No
Cemeteries?
I was originally, and then I
Oh, you
said,
get stuck in,
I
huh?
didn't know if
Yeah.
I'd be able to do it or not.
Oh, because I,
Where to get stuck in, because we're not, so we're doing cemeteries?
Do the cemeteries first, and then PD.
All right.
What was the number?
4195.
No, it's not on my list. Typo.
You got how this is swinging, Don?
Pardon?
You got how this is swinging? Is there anything we can do for the bottom line?
Yeah, probably. The town administration, the recommendation of the budget committee was that the trustees fund budget amount of 600 be moved from the town administration to ours. However, $300 of that is trustees of trust funds.
We're not gonna move
We're
it.
not
We
moving
talked about it already. So we're good on that one.
Line item for postage, you know, on occasion, I come in and give the office some deeds or whatever to be mailed. It makes no difference to me if it's budgeted here or not, or whatever your pleasure. Gravestone repair budget. This was originally set up that if there was funds in the perpetual care for a specific person or lot, and there was enough, and it needed repair, and if there was enough there, we would charge it to our general maintenance budget, and then get reimbursed from the trustees of trust funds for that amount. We have not done this at all. I believe we could get the work done and get the trustees of trust funds to pay for it directly without coming through the town budget. So if you want to eliminate that item or cut it down to 500,
What's the number I had?
I'd rather cut it down because there's still some people that you have to stones on that don't have perpetual care funds to deal with that.
right.
And it still creates a hazard in the cemetery.
So if you agree with, we're spending it for non-perpetual care or whatever, that's fine. But
Or fencing or whatever.
yeah, okay.
So 500 you said?
Yep.
Is that work, that work's not done by your volunteer, your board and
Right, we have either once or twice a year work sessions that we get volunteers and the board trustees themselves come and work on straightening a batch of stones and such. And there's no pay involved with that. There's a gentleman from Sandwich that has been coming each time and has expertise and has made some major repairs. We've requested that he put in a request for reimbursement of some of the material that he's using, but it hasn't come so far. But we would be happy to reimburse him for such.
Are the maintenance contracts going back out to bid this year? Was that
No.
a 2-year contract?
3 years.
3 years, so it doesn't come due until next year.
Right. And surveying budget request, we've had real problems, Paul King not doing what we requested. And so I think we're going to have to give up on him and go elsewhere. And we will be charged, and there is definitely work to be done. And I would not like to see that cut.
is that solely only one cemetery, which is not a farm, and who knows where the cemetery starts and ends? And
No, it's primarily the Chikarowa Cemetery that, well, I shouldn't say that. There's the section for cremation lots that needs to be laid out. There were some lots sold, and we don't really have them marked out properly. And that whole, that's a section between two stone walls, needs to be properly surveyed. The P Cemetery, in the town edition of it, needs to be officially laid out correctly and marked on the ground, which will cost
Which cemetery did you say?
Pease Hill.
Yeah.
But Wanalancet's done, with the boundaries of Wanalancet are established.
The change in the boundaries of Wanalancet have not been done. Because Paul said, well, the way it was laid out on the ground and the way it's described are slightly different. The area remains the same, basically, I believe, but because of the conservation requirements on the surrounding land, it had to go through federal approval, and he tried various times to get some of that approval, and it got buried. Sorry. In the paperwork.
That's a part.
We'll accept it though.
Probably the dead file.
Right.
That's worth the time.
So I don't expect that one to happen, and I don't expect anybody to
Worry too much.
worry about it, yeah.
You said the Pease Hill. Are you talking the section in the back that was added 20 years ago?
Yeah. And,
There are markers for that. There are
well,
stones.
there are some corners, a couple of corners, but not
Not the third corner,
line.
because it's a triangle.
right. And we need to get a right-of-way from the abutter to come in along the wall and then through the wall, so that equipment can get in to dig a grave and perhaps bring in the casket. The abutter has said, sure, that'll be fine, but we need to get it done. So as I say, I would,
And the flags and poles, there's evidently a new line item here. Is that for the little flags that go on the stones?
yeah, that
Okay.
should be just part of maintenance.
Well, it's separate for $445.
Okay, I'm not sure quite, or
9510,
Yeah,
620.
see it there, but it's fine to me, just leaving it in the maintenance, but
Vets committee is gonna need some,
We already met with them, and they're going to provide the flags. I'm assuming that's where it's coming from.
yeah.
yes,
Because that's what Mark told me.
yep.
That you guys buy the flags, and he figured it cost him like $400 for the flag.
Right.
It's just a new line item here, so.
I would assume that that's pretty close to where it might end up.
And I'm gonna go to the electric.
Can I
Just talking about flags, does that include flags for every cemetery?
that the Veterans Committee is doing flags for the non-town owned,
The two that are on Bunker Hill,
well, at least two.
that haven't had them for years and years?
Yeah, we're in the process. It's a long process, and we don't need to talk about that now because we're doing the
I
budget.
just didn't know if there was
But
money in the budget for flags for every
yes,
cemetery.
we've already met with them, and we're planning on doing flags for every cemetery. Veterans Committee.
That's,
I guess my comment on the electric, I presume that's for the light on this one flag here. Is there any way we could go solar?
It's on the flagpole, and it's the Christmas trees, and anything else. I don't know if it was, a few years ago, it started showing up in our budget, and it had been in just the town budget somewhere else.
I mean, at that rate, it's probably mostly meter charge.
Yeah, December,
I was gonna say, we took a big hit in December last year, the year before with the trees.
right.
And I'll be using LED bulbs.
I would leave that,
Yeah,
I don't know,
okay.
fire
All right, I
department
just-
or-
just-
We have solar
Be
on
efficient.
that. You know, there's a solar fixture on that. Talking about the veterans.
Yeah.
There's a solar fixture on that pole.
I thought there was, because they couldn't get the electric to work, so I guess I'm surprised the electric is still so high, because it should be only the Christmas tree that's running off of it now. I thought Rich finally ended up putting a solar on there.
Okay.
Well, it is cheaper than the year before.
Well, I know, but $300 for a Christmas tree that's lit up less than a month,
Well, you gotta pay for the meter every month.
and that's what I'm
Right,
saying.
there's still a meter too, yeah.
That's what he's saying, it's mostly meter, it's not electric that we're
Yeah.
using. All right, I think we just need to maybe look and see if we can get a solar stake for a Christmas tree.
Or work some other way to power it.
I was pretty sure they put up a
Any
solar,
further-
they couldn't get that to work.
Anything further on cemeteries?
So I see that you're gonna do, like, you're gonna reduce that by about $1,500. Is that what I'm
What you
saying?
said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's, can I get into perhaps policy? We've been, or John Roberts basically has been concerned about our questioning our spending funds for these outlying cemeteries. We do not know if we own them or not. I requested from the Municipal Association a question about that, and he said, just got an answer back today actually, of you can use a 289-19, 21 RSAs to declare burial grounds abandoned would be preferred route to follow. There's a process there that you have to advertise in the paper, etc. We've been spending this minimal amount for who knows how many years for them, and I think we're perfectly happy to keep going doing that. But I don't know if the town has some concern over that, or one way of solving it is to just take them over,
Yeah,
declare them
declare them
abandoned
abandoned.
after 20 years, and advertising, et cetera, and doing
Can
it.
you give us a list of those? Not now,
Yeah,
but can you submit a list to Darlene, and then we can put together the public hearing and all that to declare them abandoned cemeteries? Because I know the whole issue with the one at the top of the Chicago
If
Hill,
you
or going into the valley of Chicago.
If you declare them abandoned, then they would become the responsibility, sole
Right.
responsibility of the
Right.
thing.
about the town.
You know,
But you're taking care of them now anyway,
Right.
Wait a minute.
Right.
so,
So if they're abandoned,
Right,
it becomes
whoever-
town responsibility to take care of it.
Right.
It's not that they get abandoned and we don't have to deal with it.
Right.
Right.
Well, and they've been taking care of them all these years anyway. This just cleans it up to
Yeah.
say, if anybody
Okay.
questions why they're
Why
taking
they're
care of
cleaning
them,
up
this
those-
is why
okay.
they're doing
Yeah.
it.
That would be a really good, you know, if it was Manchester, I would say no, because it would cost us $68 billion a year, but this is the historical value to care.
Because I believe under that RSA, you have to list each one that's involved in abandonment. So if you could send Darlene a list, we can work on that to get that taken
What
care of.
RSA is that again, to what?
289,
289.
19 through 21.
sounds good, next.
Wait, this one, if that's gonna go in process, is there, do we have enough information to vote, to ask the trustees to go forward with this?
They can. It has to be, I believe, advertised in a public hearing almost to accept the
Yeah.
properties
Right.
like you do anything else.
No, I mean, not to do it, but the postage, the notification of abutters, notification of all sorts, it's gonna cost a few bucks. Where's the cash for that? In the general town budget or in the cemetery?
Well, we have to look at the stuff. If we get the list first, then we'll see if we can work up a cost that it might cost the town before we present it
There
as a
would definitely be
motion.
some printing costs.
Right.
Sure.
You have to advertise it.
Right.
And
Newspaper of local circulation.
If there's enough information by budget time, we could certainly amend it to $100, $200, $400, whatever it's gonna take to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Good deal. Further questions? What's the time for? Oh, next is, police department. Happy New Year, Chief.
In and out.
More paperwork.
Gee, more paper. Who knew?
I'll give you the extra bit.
Thank you.
So I gave you my breakdown versus what you might have in front of you. Mine obviously shows everything, including salary and retirement, all that stuff that goes along with it. So there's probably some discrepancies there, but I tried to, when I do my budget, I try to look at the high water mark. So my budget is represented in total, including salaries, health insurance, FICA, Medicare, and such. So if anyone's looking at the sheet, obviously you got 18 budgeted, 18 remaining. What we originally proposed for 2019, the difference from 2018, and then the blue column represents cuts and the differences of that, and then of course the last column is just minor notation of where that money goes. So I was able to trim down. Our original budget proposed was 4% over last year. I was able to trim down our budget to be 2% under last year's. So that knocked off of amount of $24,350 from the 2019 proposed. And overall representation about 6,865 under 18's budgeted amount. I also want to note that on the bottom you see grants. I originally applied for $15,000 in grants, half of which the money would come from the town, half from the state. Obviously though, we have to appropriate $15,000 on taxes. Not wanting to do that, I decided to decline the grants that we received. And I'm going to try to seek alternative funding, either through the foundation or other places, to see what I can do.
Is that opportunity lost now?
No, I mean, I think the money's always there, and you know, it doesn't look good to turn back stuff, but I don't think at the same time they have the money and they have to spend it. So they'll, even if we go next year and do it. So I don't like the way it's done, because you have to, you know, for budgeting purposes, we have to appropriate on taxes the full amount, even though we're going to get reimbursed half of it. So yeah, that's about 15,000 in grants, 7,500 would come from the town, but we completely took that away, and we're going to do something different. Some of the cuts represent the budget committee's recommendations. Some cuts I managed to just make some changes in what we're going to do next year.
Dana, for custodial services, I'm confused here because it says possible use for termination services.
I originally left $400 in there of the proposed budget, the 2019 proposed, and that was the notation really is representation towards the 2019 proposed column. So now I zeroed out that line.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, it doesn't.
For termination
yeah,
service, you're
I
not going to
didn't
use that service anymore is what you were meaning.
correct.
There.
I
Okay,
didn't.
thank you.
I didn't adjust the next column necessarily.
So your 2019 proposed, third column over, you know, in the middle.
Yep.
That's what you proposed.
Originally drafted.
Original draft
budget
for $390,516.
Mm-hmm.
So the budget that you now are presenting is the one that is the first blue that says cuts.
Mm-hmm.
So you've gone down to 366,166.
Correct.
Substantial chunk of change.
that's also figuring a 2.8% COLA, correct?
Right, and again, that was looking at the high water mark when I originally did the budget, so, and, you know, my calculations are probably pretty close to Kathy's, but I'm sure there's some discrepancy when that's all figured out.
This doesn't affect the new cruiser.
That's not discussed in this, because that's
Right.
separate.
Okay. But, you know, when you say you're keeping two old, well, if the budget passes, including the warrants for the CIP, you could have a new cruiser by, I don't know, April 12th.
Yep.
Would the two older ones stay in?
Yeah, and the idea is to keep them in service. I don't feel that we ever should have got rid of what we had. I should have just stayed, even though it, you know, as long as it was still running and didn't need much work, it should have just stayed in the fleet, just because if we, you know, we're down, one goes out catastrophic or needs major work, then, you know, you have a backup. And then with full staffing, it's, you know, we run into many issues where we're shorthanded on vehicles to be able to fill assignments, whether it's details, training, meetings. So we end up either having to pay mileage reimbursement for some of those things, or, you know, having to adjust schedules to around just having those cruisers, so.
Fair enough.
So we pay FICA on part-timers, but not full-timers?
Correct.
You can live with that?
This budget? Yeah, I mean, you know, I try to budget as tight as we can to the line. You know, there's some unknowns and some questions when it comes to certain things, but you know, we try to make do with what we got. I mean, we're trying to continue to move forward, you know, and create a service that is, I think, what I would consider a standard of care for typical services. I mean, you know, we're not, this isn't a above and beyond, you know, type of thing.
I see here a new line, prosecutor.
I zeroed it out. Originally, that was sort of a condition of one of the hire we had back in February. We assigned that officer those duties and paid them a stipend for those duties, but that was meant to, whether that worked out or not, we could withdraw the stipend as opposed to paying somebody $1 more an hour for that duty. I do the prosecution now, so I've opted to not take the stipend, and we'll just offer zero.
Is that the long-term plan, that you continue to do the prosecution, or you give?
Yeah, at this point.
God bless you.
I was gonna say, is that,
It's a headache. It's a lot of work, and you know, your hope is that not everything goes to trial, because if it goes to trial, it's a lot of work for us, and you know, it's a pain. It's a lot of paperwork, but it's part of the job. So I guess one thing in here that's not in the budget that I keep talking about, and part of it's my fault because I haven't created the system or a policy around it. You see at the bottom about, it says add holiday stipend, it's a $6,000 increase, recommended increase in the budget. So we run into the issue of offering the holidays as the town has per policy, but the problem we have is we still need to offer coverage to the town and not deplete the coverage, you know, whether it's Christmas, 4th of July, whatever it is, Thanksgiving, New Year's Eve, things of that nature. So I continue to bounce back this idea of holiday stipend. Most agencies pay for the X number of holidays that are allotted, and in a stipend that is usually doled out in November. That's typically how they do it. So what I've kind of considered or proposed is that I not take the stipend, that I'll take my holidays as they need or fit them in within that pay period. The other officers where we have 12 holidays, I believe the town policy is, what I was considering to save a little bit of money was that the 2 officers are paid for 10 holidays and offered 2 floating holidays, so they can fit them in somewhere in the year that offers a 2 floating holiday. And then they're compensated for the 10 other holidays, and they, you know, it either, if they, you know, holiday falls on their normal shift, they work it like normal. And that's what most agencies do. And that doesn't deplete, the problem is when I have to give them these days off. So this time of year was horrible for us because Christmas, New Year's Eve, Thanksgiving, I still have to give them those days off within the pay period. It doesn't mean they're necessarily gonna have the holiday off, but within that pay period, I have to find somewhere for them to get the holidays they're allowed to have per policy. Well, the problem is I'm the one that ends up eating it because I have to fill those shifts where they're not working. So
I need to look at that policy because I don't remember it saying that you have to have those days off. I understand what you're saying. We do the same thing in nursing and everything, you reschedule. But I think we need to look at that policy entirely because we have highway crew that ends up in the same predicament. We have the transfer station who ends up in the same predicament. So I think we just need to look at that policy in totality, not just in one department, about how we.
And I think that was why I haven't done anything at this point, because I know we've had this conversation and talk about the town doing something, but at some point I need to make a decision and do what's, I think that's for our department, and whether I do a policy and have you guys sign off and agree to it that supersedes it, you know, and go from there.
Well, if you want to draft a policy, we may adopt it for all departments, because like I say, you can't really, then you get into all kinds of issues if you address your department one way and the highway department another way and the transfer station
But the highway
another way.
department does not work all holidays.
I'm not saying they do.
The transfer station does not work all holidays.
But
The police department is on a schedule.
I'm going to say
They
just
have
like,
to work.
just like DOT. DOT has specific guidelines for holiday. You have to work the day before or the day after to get your holiday. If it's on the holiday, they opt to pay you holiday pay on top of working that holiday. So I think we just need to keep it consistent because it may not happen every day in the highway department, but it does happen that they're out on a holiday too. So if we keep it consistent through the town, then everything's.
It's just, I agree what you're saying, but at the same time, you know, not everybody fits in the same box, you know, in our department is
My
that.
question is in the salary line, is there holiday pay in that salary line?
They're paid now for holiday.
No, they wouldn't claim a
No,
holiday.
no. In the salary line you have here now, is there holiday pay included in that salary line?
No.
Where does it come from?
Well, it would
There
be
is no
because-
holiday pay.
No, he said he has
Yeah,
to
I
give
know what you're
another
saying.
day off
Really, I
and
get what
pay
you're
for
saying,
it.
and there's- and there's-
Everything.
Like 40 hours a week for
There's
52
some
weeks, that's holidays included in that.
Right.
If that's how he figured his salary.
Right.
Right.
The holidays
So
are
that-
figured
that's what
in
I'm
there, it's
trying to
just the
find
time to allow the people to take
Right.
that holiday, he has to do it in that time.
That's a good
frame.
question, and I know other agencies offer the stipend, so,
Yeah, I'm just trying to,
and I know they budget, the hourly rate they budget, you know, for everybody to work. I mean, I know that's how other agencies do it, so, I mean, I see it's a valid question.
just trying to get all the facts together so that I can make an informed decision.
And maybe that's, so maybe that's part of the salary line, and then we just write it out differently.
Well, the thing of it is, we're already paying for holidays, it's just that your scheduling doesn't, you've gotta get them, like you said, squeezed into that pay period time frame
So,
to get
You
their
have a
pay,
so maybe that's a valid
Right.
thing, maybe it's right in there already.
Because it's already, you've got your
Sure.
sick time in there, you've got your vacation time in there, and you've got the holiday time in the salary line. So
So I guess it's just a matter of writing policy
I
then,
think
to
that's why I
delegate
was
out
not
that.
in a hurry to add more money to the budget.
I don't know,
No,
for some
but-
reason it's
But
convoluted.
alleviates, the problem comes down is that you're paying an individual the same pay you're paying him to work on Monday as you're
Right.
paying him to work Christmas Day.
that's what you're
You
getting.
can't do that. If you're gonna make them work a holiday, find somebody that's not gonna work a holiday for regular pay. They're gonna get time and a half or whatever. So this alleviates that fact about doing the time and a half.
Well, the thing of it is we don't do that now. We don't offer holiday pay, we don't offer time and a half, because he has to schedule somebody in on another day. So you either have to decide you're going to pay somebody time and a half for holiday and increase that into the budget line, or he's gotta finagle his schedule to say, it's already in there for the single day's pay.
If you're scheduling somebody to work a holiday and they work it, we're gonna pay them time and a half.
Yeah, see,
And
I
so
don't-
the holidays in their salary, and then the overtime you have in your overtime line.
But they may
This is
not
a very
work all
confusing-
overtime on the holiday. Right.
If they work.
I've discussed
They
this many
shouldn't
times,
be
but
time
I
and a
know
half
other
on
agencies
holiday.
are doing, so we're not
But we're not-
reinventing the wheel, and
There's no policies.
it's not done that way. You're paid straight time, no matter whether you're working a holiday, you know, as normal, whatever, and then every November you get a stipend check. That's how it was at the county, that's how it's at
And other places
agencies.
do it, if you work the holiday, you get holiday pay plus working the holiday at your regular rate. And you
Right.
don't go into overtime until your overtime hours hit over the.
But if you give a stipend, you're not doing it.
Right. But.
It just becomes a regular workday for them.
So it needs to be looked at across the board, because, like I
But the
said,
money may already
other
be in
departments
itself.
are.
I don't know,
already-
I don't know, I don't know.
Is this gonna, whatever you come up with, because, you know, you've got some boilerplate from some of the, is this not gonna, is this gonna alleviate the sticking of one person with working holidays, either for time and a half or at straight time? Because, you know, I marvel at the fact that there was no night differential for 100 years. What police department does that? And
But we still have other issues to address. I mean, it's kind of somewhat taking baby steps, and, you know, there's the issue of call. I mean, I take calls 7 days a week with
Yeah.
no compensation for it, you know? That's
There's
not normal.
nobody, no other department in the
Oh,
world would
yes,
do
there
that.
is.
no.
Oh, yes,
In
I could
nursing.
call for 3 years.
Did you get
with-
paid for it?
No, I did not.
It's illegal.
On call 24 hours a
Look at
day.
it, it's illegal. Go to the Department of Labor, it's illegal.
No,
What
it's
are we
not,
doing?
not if you.
What are we doing about
Administration.
one
Well,
person getting
administration.
stuck with holiday work?
Well, I'm confused about that, because do you have a policy that says that no employees will be scheduled on holidays because it's a day off for here? I mean, I'm confused about that, because I dealt with nobody getting extra pay for holidays, but it was not, you had, like Thanksgiving, you either work Thanksgiving or you work Christmas, that was your choices. If you work Thanksgiving, you had Christmas off, if you work Christmas, you had Thanksgiving off.
We work out the schedule amongst us to figure out, so we're not, you know, okay, you might work the holiday and take a different day off in the pay period to compensate it.
And that's what I'm saying, so we
There's no
don't.
policy around it, it's, we work out the schedule as the holidays come up.
Well, see, in my field, we had a policy that you had to work major and minor holidays. You worked one major, one minor. So that's why I'm asking.
Does it
So
sound
there's nothing outlined, so you have to schedule your people as you can schedule them.
Yeah, I mean, we try to figure out what's best.
Does the salary line include holiday pay for a member of the department who does the holiday? If they rotate?
No, I mean, the salary line is straight time, 40 hours a week, 52 weeks.
The town does not offer time and a half for holidays to anybody. So his 52 weeks of 40 hours a week is in his salary. He's requesting that we do something better for our employees, like offer time and a half or something if they work a holiday. So that's what we as a board have to decide on that policy. Are we going to pay time and a half for holidays, or are we gonna keep having people work at regular time? With
I
no other
understand.
benefits other than getting another day off during the week. So that's on us.
I think critical to the thing is, no one person should have to take the holidays. We can't have a system where, you know, yeah, let's go to work. By the way, Joe, you're working Easter, you're working Thanksgiving, you're working Christmas, you're working New Year's Day, you're working 4th of July, you're working,
Yeah, I mean,
you know, whether it's paid or not, that's crazy stuff.
You know, sometimes, you know, that sort of stuff falls on low man on the totem pole, but because we're a small agency, we we sit down, we talk about it, you know, who wants to work the holiday first off, you know, and what's more beneficial for the department. So, you know, we try to, you know, schedule the holidays and to have minimal impact with loss of coverage. So, you know, we're out there on Thanksgiving, we're there on Christmas, and so on and so forth.
The only other question I have is, you have the dollar here for cleaning. Is that on our liability, or is that on their liability for cleaning?
That would be as a town employee.
I'm not sure I understood what you said.
There's a dollar here for cleaning, and I asked if that was on our liability or what. He said as a town employee. So does that incorporate part of that 24 hours?
Yes.
Sounds good.
I have one question for you, Dana. We have that snow removal contract that goes into next year, which we have a balance that.
It's in here.
It's in there? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
2,000 for snow removal.
Yeah, I'm a
Alright,
little
perfect.
confused. I went with what you gave me, but I thought
Yep.
it should have been 2,500, but I could be wrong. I thought our total was 3,500 and 1,000 came out this year and 2,500 next
I
year.
think the way it was split out between the 4 departments, it wasn't exactly 2,500.
Okay.
But that's good, as long as you had it
Well,
on.
there's
to make
2,000
sure we
in
didn't
there
have to look
for,
at-
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
well, I don't know if that's to the end of March
May,
or.
yeah.
or
April
whatever.
30th or May 1st, something like that.
Yeah.
Then it's done.
Didn't we pay the plowing portion of that out of encumbered money?
Only 8,000. We were still minus. I have the spreadsheet, I think it's in your paperwork from last week. We still minus, we had to put 2,000 in the police department and 1,000 back into the highway. I mean, into the fire
Right.
for this year. Everything else will be encumbered.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Further questions for Chief? Comments?
We got ACO for chief, animal control.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have that here.
Hey, Chief, can I ask you a question?
Shoot.
I thought when he came on board, he was also, one of the recommendations was that he was animal control officer for other, Ossipee or Effingham or someplace. He's just us.
No, it's just dedicated to us, which is nice. So, looking at animal control, I deducted that by $500.
The stipend down to 500?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Linda, what'd you say? You dropped
I
his-
reduced the wages to 2,500, so, and actually that'd be, that's $500 plus you actually have to calculate out the associated money, so it'd be a little bit more than 500.
And he has-
Oh, and I zeroed, I did, this is part of the recommendation of the budget committee. I zeroed that Humane Society, I'll talk about that. We signed a contract with the Humane Society in Conway Humane, every year, and in it is a fee of $250 that they would charge us. However, they never bill us and never ask for the money. So that's why the money's always been there. I spoke with the ACO about it. He said that it's just, they never bothered to charge it, and they, which is kind of foolish, I guess, on their part. So we can zero it, and if they ever ask for it, then we can pay it, and we'll be over in that line, and hopefully still have the money there. But
Yeah, I'm surprised. I thought they billed out the towns.
they don't, or I'm sure, maybe they do, but we've never received the bill, unless some other town is getting it and paying it.
That'll be fine.
That's fine too. Huh?
The dog ate the bill.
And maybe now they'll watch this video and send us a bunch of back bills.
There you go.
The telephone covers 2 landlines and 3 cells?
In the ACO, or are you talking about back in the police?
Animal.
Just one.
Animal just covers the one cell phone. They're roughly $36 a month.
And he's on the town data plan?
He is, and I don't know what was told to him when he received that prior to my arrival. We did have a conversation with him and talking, you know, and what the budget committee had recommended. I did have a conversation with him, and, you know, at some point we'll have a policy forthcoming, but, you know, was to limit his data use to town-only function, you know, make sure that's, and utilize Wi-Fi whenever he can, so to alleviate any data usage. I don't know what he was told
Well, as you
before.
know,
He
we're
may have had
looking
an
at-
assumption that there was unlimited and it didn't matter, so.
We're looking at all the phones. I mean, could he survive on a track phone with Minispot?
I think he does a lot of the research on his phone. So, I don't know, I mean, if a track phone can do that still, then
Yeah, you
maybe.
can get data and stuff. Just, I mean, we're looking at all
Yeah.
the phones because it's just getting, that's a big budget item. Okay, so 250 and 500 is what you got on this one?
Yeah,
And
so
750?
750 is an option. So that puts it under 5,000.
I go to the supply line, and I look back over the last couple of years, and it's been $35.
Yeah.
And $200
That was-
appropriated, and this year you got $500 for supplies.
Yeah,
What do you need?
that was my doing because we had an incident back in last winter with the coyote and mangy coyote, and, you know, I had him come over assist us and try to corral it to get it out of the barn over here at Bremen. And he whips out this 3-foot pole, and I'm like, what is that? You know, like, why don't you have a longer pole? You know, he just never had. What he's done for years is he scrounged supplies wherever he could find supplies. So everything he has was either something was like a dump find, or, you know, Humane Society gave him, or something like that. But we had there was costs in there for like a 6-foot pole. There was a cost for sort of bike gloves, and there was something else, and I don't know if I have my notes here.
I just noticed that it was, you know, you'd only spent $35.
Yeah,
Last
and
couple of years, and all of a sudden you need 500.
Yeah, and that's because nothing was ever asked for, and kind of what I had done was originally budgeted was reduced money elsewhere in his budget and added it into the equipment line to give him some equipment, because I'd rather he show up with appropriate equipment.
And again, this is the first year for his training, so what type of training are you
Right,
looking at?
so in efforts to reduce town liability, I'd like to have him take some, you know, certified animal control officer type trainings that kind of give him more credential than what he has than just showing up, you know. There's through the New Hampshire Animal Control Officer Association, there's a training. I actually don't think that's enough money, but we'll see what we can do. They had a hard time getting hold of the association to get a hard and fast, but the ACO advised that he thought it was actually like $495. It's a week-long class. So I just, you know, my feeling is that he really should have some
Almost like a
certification
certification.
to go with what he's doing.
And that's the reason for having the mileage a little higher than what.
What's that?
That's the reason for having the mileage a little higher too, is to go take this class.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, and I can probably go back and track this year's, but if not, I can definitely track this coming year's. You know, one of the big expenses we have with him is that he helps facilitate all the dog summonses for the clerk.
Does he carry sidearm?
What's that?
Does he carry a sidearm?
Yes.
His or the department?
No, his.
You okay with that?
It's a topic of discussion. It's not under, you know, and it's actually something where we've talked about addressing. And I think this year we're gonna put him through our standardized qualification course, because it's something that can be done with people of his nature. And that way he'll be covered under liabilities as far as that training goes. But it's not to use under the color of law. It's only for self, you know, protection of animals and stuff like that.
I think they had a couple in Effingham fairly
What's that?
recently. They had a couple of,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. Just dogs that were put down.
animal targets. Anything else on,
Can I ask, what other towns does he work for?
What difference does it make? Can I ask that?
He doesn't-
yeah, it would be to me too,
Why?
because I want all the towns, if he, and this goes back to when he was hired.
No, it doesn't. It's his
Yes.
personal life. It has nothing to do with him being hired by Tamworth.
I'm
who
sorry.
he works
I'm-
for, part-time.
I'm sorry, I have a question, and I'd like a respectful answer.
It's his personal life. It's
If
what
he
he does on
works
his personal
somewhere
time.
else,
Yes.
and he's getting paid by town of Tamworth and some other towns, and we're offering him some education, more mileage, don't you think that other towns should be submitting some of this, or has this been asked?
No,
Do other towns,
Participate.
are they willing
we,
to send him to school?
we've had that he doesn't work for any other, in ACO capacity, he doesn't work for any other agency or town.
That was the issue that I had.
And you just asked that question, so,
Right, I
you
thought
know.
he said he doesn't work.
He
He's
does.
exclusive
I
to
mean,
Tamworth
so-
right now. He wasn't when he was first hired.
And
for us.
we've talked about, you know, some other things or whatever, and, you know, I've made it clear, you know, his devotion is to our town, and he's to, you know, give us priority of, or, you know, I mean, obviously, he's gotta make money in his own life, his own job, so he does it, but he, you know, he'll often leave what he's doing, you know, side work, whatever he's doing, to come and do the work, or whatever. And I don't know if you guys come up with this handyman position, but I told him to throw his hat in the ring if that position comes available. I mean, you know, there's something of option there, and then we can utilize them for our needs, and, you know, so on and so forth.
That's a good idea.
It is, because, I mean,
I think it's one.
his handyman, that's handyman, it's not like he's dedicated to so many hours or whatever. I mean, he, you know, he can drop what he's doing to come and deal with something that we have going on or whatever. But I give him credit, I mean, he gets called on holidays and Christmases and stuff too, and, you know, I mean,
It's your life.
he goes out. I wouldn't do it for what he gets paid, but.
I had the same question you did, for the same reason, and to understand he doesn't do animal control work for anybody else.
That's fine. I
Yep,
just,
I'm
know if
fine
he was
too.
doing it for another
Sure.
town,
Right.
I just thought that that was a reasonable
And to
question.
answer Dan's question, it does matter. Because if he's working for several towns, Dan, think about it. If he's working for several towns, there's a shared expense there, whether it be education, whether it be uniforms, whatever.
First of all,
That
if
was
he
it. I'm
works
sure
for
that was my
another
wife's
town, it
question.
has nothing to do with his uniform that he's working with Tamworth.
Has to do with money.
We're only concerned about him being qualified for Tamworth. If that's a benefit that the other town gets, so be it.
This is the budget.
What he does on his personal time is none of your business, Bruno.
I don't think she was talking personal time. I'm sure she wasn't.
I think that,
Moving on.
yeah,
Next, what was next?
stop.
End of one.
I just have a question. Animal control, does he do, what kind of animals? All animals?
He actually does all animals, and I
just-
give him a ton of credit, because he's made some connections with various farms around town. So we've had, let's see, we actually seized 2 pigs last winter, and we charged animal cruelty to some people that had them. But he managed to, because of a connection he already pre-established, to have the pigs housed, you know, at this farm and taken care of, you know. And then one of the things when we went to court on it, you know, we had them turn over the pigs to these people, and they ended up with the pigs. But that's sort of their, because they, you know, there's an expense to taking care of the pigs, and they're malnutrition.
Well, I just didn't know if like there's cows that are
But
always
no,
on
yeah.
the wrong side of the fence, if
He
he's the
does
one to call.
domestic animals.
He does
He
domestic,
doesn't
but-
take care of wildlife. That's fish and game.
Yeah,
But-
yeah.
but
Well,
I
not
mean-
wildlife,
Strictly
but
domestic animals.
But cows that are in a fence are supposed to be in a fence.
That's a
that
domestic
are always
animal.
out, then, okay, I didn't know if they
yes, he
covered
does
that or
attend
not.
to the ones in South Tamworth.
Coyote
He does?
barn, isn't it?
He'd be busy, because every day,
They were
They're
out
out.
yesterday.
I'm in the road, I mean, I feel bad for them, they got nothing to eat. I just didn't know if that was someone that you called him for that or not.
He does go out and deal with those.
Okay.
Does he call, if they had a complaint, they call the PD and then you guys call him? Or is his number?
I mean,
how does it work, you know?
I mean,
They
you
usually
can call the
call us.
PD, and if you don't get an answer at the PD, call the dispatch number, and then they'll call him direct and let him know.
Oh, okay.
Or they call us and we call them.
Yeah, I mean, he's very responsive to
Okay.
most stuff as long as he's nearby or in
It's
the
just
area.
like, I mean, all summer the pigs are in the road and you can't, there's no
Are
phone
we
number.
talking budget?
Well, I didn't know if he covered it or not.
Thank you.
We have it, we got, yep.
I have another question, and I'm sorry, Dan, but I'm gonna say it, maybe you should recuse yourself. Going back to the police budget and comparing what was spent from November to January, and this, how can the full-time police salary be 31,000 over budget?
Oh, wow, that's a question for the board.
Yep.
It's a good question.
It was, yeah,
It's personnel.
It was,
We can't, it's a personnel issue.
Legal line.
Is that why the legal bill is up?
okay.
Next.
With a little luck, I'm okay with a hot button issue of budget being the animal control. Where are we at?
next is Treasury, and
Yeah.
I did speak with Annie, and she was okay with me speaking to her budget. And she said she would be able to go along with all the recommendations by the budget committee. So we can go line by line.
Let's go to the bottom line.
Oh, I didn't do that.
Go line by line, we'll add them up. Go, Darlene, line by line.
So, take $50 off for bank fees, so that will be $100.
What,
$340.
340, I got it.
560 would be 200. 620 would be 100. And mileage would be 1,100.
What's not yet?
Wonder what her hourly pay is.
1,500, isn't it?
$1.30, $1.40.
It's
Isn't it
salary.
Is it 1,500
Just
she
curious.
got?
Yeah.
I got 1,500 she got.
No, not 1,500.
Oh, I'm sorry, no, I'm
No,
sorry,
the
I was
other way
doing,
around.
yeah, it'd be the other way
So
around.
50, 250, 325, 425.
Yeah, 425, sorry.
This would be 7,283. 7,283?
What is it, 70 what?
7,283, I think is the number should be.
Close enough.
7208.
Yeah, 7208, I was gonna say.
Oh,
7208.
Yeah,
Zero,
Yeah.
okay.
this 3 minus 5 isn't it?
7,200 even.
Yeah, 7208.
Excuse me, I don't see anything else on the agenda that might need my attention.
You're all set.
You guys are all set?
Street lighting.
Oh, there you go.
How many do you want me to shoot out?
Please.
Already.
Put
We need to
kids
start
in
getting
town
what
to
we're
it.
paying for.
It's their- it's
In
their-
Chicago or every other one?
We don't even have
They're
that
out.
on here,
Did you
do we?
shut half of them off?
Well, I know 3 right off the bat that are out.
Yeah, I did too.
I made some phone calls. Report. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yep.
Thank you. Revaluation.
Wait a minute,
Treasury.
what thing are we following here? We did cemetery,
My door's
landfill,
always open for
landfill.
discussion at the PD.
So what's
On
up?
My
reevaluation
door's
of
always open
property.
for discussion at the
Well,
PD.
they've added
Great.
these in, I don't, and it's.
What did we add? We just sort of added cemetery, that's it.
Not grants and the old landfill and the board of selectmen?
Yeah, we'll do those, but they're not in there yet. We just, those are if we get to them. So you need your own agenda, not Kathy's.
Well,
Those are Kathy's notes.
cemeteries weren't in my agenda, so I had to figure out where it came from.
Reevaluation of property.
Okay, this is where I'm gonna pipe up and ask some questions. Are we going to revalue the whole town in 2019?
I say yes, and I'll tell you why.
Holy cow, this is new and interesting.
What, Becky?
I said, I agree that probably 5 years is killing us, we're not picking up enough of this fight.
I think for first of all, if you're gonna go just for cost, it would cost about $140,000 over 5 years to reevaluate the whole town, if we do the 20%. If we do it in 1 year, in 2020, like you say, it'll be over $300,000 that you'll have to appropriate in 1 year. That is a huge spike. This way, with $30,000 a year around there, Willie's making faces.
I'm getting a mixed
We
computation
won't-
here.
We won't have the whole thing done in 1 year.
What's your question?
I was asking, are we going to look at having the town fully reevaluated in 2019?
Oh, in 2019, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about 2020.
Well, I mean, maybe it'll be 2020 that we do it. The trouble is that if we spend large sums of money for the next 4 years and you only get the 5th year to use that data, we're not collecting revenue that we need.
No, that's not necessarily true, because you can still pick up, you can still do all your pickups, all your errors and omissions when he's out there. It will just be the analysis piece that will be held off to the 5th year. Any other errors that are found throughout that 20% area can be picked up and used that year.
So it's almost $700,000 to plunk it over 5 years versus $300,000.
No.
It's $140,000 for the whole 5 years?
He charges about $25,000 a year to do the reval. So the reval that's in here this year is the $25,000. That would be the measurement, the statistical for 2019. Up above where it says it's 390. I'm sorry, number 390, the top line.
26,800.
Yeah, contract appraiser.
That is
11,800.
That is 20% of the town and his assessing duties.
Good. If to hire a firm to come in and do it, it's gonna cost $300,000 to do the whole town. You divide that by 4. That comes up closer to $75,000 for each quarter, and he's gonna do it for 11,800?
No, that's his regular assessing duties. Oh, is this the wrong number in here? Hang on.
That's right. I'm just,
Kathy, where's it?
dollars aren't working for
Hang
me.
on, hang on.
100,000,
No.
4 years is 25,000.
100,000 over
No.
4 years is 25,000.
We
Yep.
said 20% a year.
But 20% is 5
We
times.
just said if we had somebody do it all in one,
That was a question I'm posing.
yeah, I mean, it
Hang on,
just,
hang on. I got it right here. I got it.
I guess why I'm asking that is this a number we want to keep in here? That's why I'm asking that.
Yeah, that top number is not right. So in the annual,
Are you requesting, Willie,
No, I-
more, that we evaluate more?
he won't,
I'm trying to figure out if we can get our town reevaluated sooner so that we can collect some revenue.
Oh, no, I hear what you're saying, exactly.
And I guess unfortunately,
I'm sorry, this
we
is-
get 3 pieces of paper, and the one that I had from the original has $11,800 in that line.
We've sent new ones.
And now you've got a
This
new
one's
line
We've
that's
sent
got
new ones,
26.
we've sent new ones since then,
Yeah.
but the first line, Kathy, should be 26,808 plus the 11,000 for his regular assessing.
Right, so that's 35,
Right.
37, 38.
Right, so my numbers here on my sheet that I was.
38,
had the
640.
copy from her.
26,808 plus
So what,
11,123.
what you're saying is if he does 20% of the town, goes out and reevaluates, and he finds out that the property is worth more, that we can't charge taxes on that property more until the whole town is done? Is that what you're saying?
If it wasn't listed originally, in other words, if somebody put a garage up on their property that isn't on their original inventory list, you can charge them for that. But I don't think you can charge them more for their house until the end of the 5-year period.
Unless there was a mistake. If there
Right,
was something.
so-
And you want
and he's
to
gonna
talk
go
about
out-
being in the courtroom.
And he's gonna go out and do, when he does the 20%, that's when he'll be doing his measuring and listing. So if there's an error, or if there's something that's not correct, he can fix it and make those changes that year.
But even if
The
he
analysis-
finds that the property value is going up, we still can't
It
tax
depends
him
what-
on
it
that
depends
value
why.
to the end of the 50.
Right, it depends why,
Right,
yes.
so you're on a 5-year,
No, I understand exactly what Willie's saying.
and
Yeah.
where we're down in revenue.
But it would
Yeah.
really, it would be really nice if you could make this, maintain this continually, even after the 5 years, and do 20% or 25% of the town every year, so you don't get these huge spikes.
So up until this point, the town's not had 20% total reeval done.
Not since I've been here.
That's why I think we should start new and do a whole town-wide reeval. And then after you do that, set it up for 20% every year after that, because we're losing a lot of revenue, I think.
And I think that you get a new set of eyes to look at everything. It's not the guy going out and saying, oh, did I have that on my sheet last time? You know, I think you get a better snapshot in time of where we're at.
So what
To get
was the
that.
entire price for the town?
Well, right
To
now.
evaluate the whole town?
I didn't get specific prices, I just called around to some companies, and they charge on average $100 per parcel. We have about 2,800 parcels, so it'd be close to $3,000.
No,
If
300,000.
300,000.
300,000.
300,000.
I was gonna have that other guy that you had 3,000 work
Yeah,
for.
sorry.
But right
That
now,
would be
we're
really good.
paying,
So if you take all of these, this 5 years.
yeah, but I'm
when
trying to, wait a minute, I'm trying to figure out just the top line, how much that is, because it's,
Okay, wait, so you've
40,000?
gotta divide that, don't do that, that's what I'm gonna tell you. So we've got a different contract for the reval for the 20% each year, and that totals $141,974. That would be for just the reval piece.
I understand that. I wanna know what the total request is for the AS contract appraiser for his job and 20% reval. That's all I'm looking for.
Okay, so
you
the
said it's
20% reval is $141,900, you want just the year?
Just the year, so you said it was
It's
2608
26,808.
plus the 11,460, and I was just asking if somebody had added that up before me.
We had set the 26,808 and then the 11,808
Wait a
is
minute.
just the
Where-
assessing contract.
So the 11,460 is wrong?
No.
Well, she just said 808, so I'm confused. So we're adding up
So the-
26,808.
26 or 28?
I've got 26, so which is it?
26.
808 plus 11,460.
So that new number is gonna be 38,268.
No, 2019 is
that.
11,808.
What?
2019.
Can we
is
do this the
11,808.
next budget meeting when the numbers get straightened out, so we can actually see what we're dealing with?
11,808.
I agree.
Yeah,
I mean-
let's do this over.
Yeah, we'll do this at the next,
Yeah,
where
let's
the
table
numbers
this
get
and we'll come
correct,
back.
because,
The big deal as to whether or not we're gonna, do this piecemeal.
alright.
Talk to Ossipee, they're in the exact same position. And, you know, if you redo your kitchen, or if you don't have as much property and as you say you have, so you can get current use, you pick it up and it changes then. Or any additional structures. There's a ton of reasons why they can use them. It's better if they can use them all at once, but $300,000 a year, next year to get that done, I think is extreme. Okay,
Legal.
yeah.
I say move it down to 2,500.
You're brave.
Well, we've been running 30,000, and we've been spending 13 and 17.
Well, you said 2,500, you mean
I heard
25,000?
25,000, yeah.
That's why I said you're being brave at 2,500. I'll go
I
to.
know, I was.
I'll go
All the
to,
lawyers, and we won't have to pay them.
I'll go to
Did you
25.
update your expenditures that we sent you?
Is not on here? The
He's
sheets
not
that we
looking
just
at-
got?
he's not looking at the
Well, I
new
am,
sheet. We spent
13
40.
and 40, but
40.
that was
You
an
said
exceptional
17, I
year.
wanted to make sure he knew that it wasn't 17.
Well, hopefully that 40 won't have to be paid again.
Better not.
We've learned our lessons, maybe.
Expensive lesson.
I go 25,000.
I go 25. Next.
I think that might be a mistake, folks.
25?
I think 25 is a mistake, given this year.
Yeah, but this is.
We're
Let's
hoping
go
that we
back
won't-
through all the other years, going all the way back, and how much have we spent?
I can go back to when it was 60, and we needed it.
Yeah, well,
And you don't
okay.
know what's happening, you got ordinances that.
And I can be worried to death about everything and spend so much money that I don't know what I'm doing next. We gotta stop worrying about everything being a fear factor of what if this happens, what if that happens, what if this?
I haven't worried about that yet.
Well, you worry about this one.
I am.
The thing of it is if it gets that bad, then you have to sit down and say, we'll do a supplemental budget.
Right, or
Or you got the emergency fund.
emergency fund, you know?
Right.
So,
We gotta stop.
If we can get somebody to
appropriating
spend
more
some of that money, that'd be great. So what is it, 25?
25,000.
At least we upped it from 2,500.
Yeah, see, you're feeling good. You're
Yeah, good.
100%
In
more.
an inflationary economy, we'll cut it to 2,500.
Water testing, or what are we doing next?
Personal
Personal benefits?
personal benefits.
I'm so confused about these.
That's sort of done, isn't it? Except for,
Well, we got pre-employment tests listed here, drug and alcohol testing, and unemployment expenses, and a fee for $3. I didn't like that one. The merit pool we don't do, so.
Pretty cut and dry to me.
What pre-employment testing do we do?
what are we doing? We already voted on cost of living.
No, we didn't.
We have not.
No, we didn't.
have
Did we not do
that?
not voted on
No.
cost of living or raise. We
No.
haven't touched either, and we haven't had a discussion about it.
What do we do for pre-employment testing? That it doesn't fall under drug and alcohol?
It's the,
Background checks.
Background checks.
So it's not really pre-employment testing,
Sure it
it's
is.
background checks?
yeah, you do, it's a pre-employment screening, I guess you could call it that, or testing.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Before somebody's hired, we do a background check, and if they're driving, we do a driving check.
And the flexible spending fee, again, just set me straight, this is the amount that, it's the administrative
We
cost
don't
for
need that anymore,
not
because
even in there.
everyone has,
Oh,
there's nothing in
okay.
there.
Why you bring that up?
I'm sorry, I didn't look far enough over.
Zoning,
Next.
Cut
first zoning.
$53.
How much?
I want that line to say $53.
Is there a reason?
What is that? One quarterly meeting and minutes?
They're supposed to be meeting
Yeah.
quarterly, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, I see that what do we got for what they spent last year? 109. Almost
No,
done.
54 cents. No, they didn't spend anything. 'cause-
Oh, okay, so if we put $54 in that bottom line, you can spread it out over those lines, and I think we can work with it.
I think what's gonna happen, in fact, is that, given time, we have some volunteers in the town who say that they're willing to reconvene if, for instance, a cell tower proposal comes up or something else with the zoning board of adjustment has to meet. Failing that, the select board might have to do that, although.
But I believe you have a town meeting that dissolved the zoning board, so therefore cell phones fall on to the selectmen, and I do have that in writing.
No.
We did?
No.
Okay, so correct me.
You cannot do that, excuse me, you
No.
cannot do that. It's in the floodplain ordinance. You gotta
Can't
establish.
do what?
You can't dissolve the zoning board of
Okay,
adjustment.
right,
no. All
Because
right.
it's part of the floodplain ordinance, which is still in effect. It's also part of the cell tower ordinance or personal wireless. I believe the selectmen have an obligation to appoint members, even if they don't meet. I don't think you wanna find yourself with nobody on the board.
Well, I'm gonna bring back in the letter that I was sent from the state of New Hampshire then that said that if you do not have a zoning board, which we don't have a functioning zoning board, that the selectmen are therefore responsible to up and maintain the flood zone guidelines. I've got that from last year, we got it from last year.
No, we
No.
have, we have
We have-
Chris Conrad
Gotta get
keeping
Chris.
minutes, and that's it, I think.
But I'll bring
What did
that
you
letter
wanna
in.
drop it down to, Will?
$53.
53.
Sounds like a plan to me.
There we go.
I got an 8-day-old opinion from NHMA Legal. They can find no circumstances in which the Board of Selectmen is a land use board.
Well, I'll bring it in from the Department of Zoning.
Good
That's
deal.
who I got it from.
Insurance?
Done.
Nothing we can do about that.
No.
Can we drop that down as that training takes place?
No.
Not this year, it would
No,
have to
probably-
be next
Probably
year.
not even 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Even if we receive the training to make us?
Nope,
Okay.
we have too many strikes against
Yeah,
us.
I know.
But it will help
Yeah.
when that 5 years comes.
Ambulance,
I
Done.
don't think we have much choice on that. The contract's still running.
contract is still there, right?
Yeah. Ends in 2023, right?
No,
2022?
21?
21?
21.
Yeah, 21.
21.
Sorry. I'm already in.
Municipal building,
That's a non-lapsing account, it's fine the way
Yeah.
it is.
Right,
Done?
yep.
done. Here you go, Will.
Show them off.
Street lighting.
Everyone. But then the headlights on cars.
Well, see, that brings up, are we paying for a street light on the street or aren't we? Because I thought it went solar too, so if it's solar, should we get rid of that box down there?
But it's not a street light.
I know, but it reminds me of streetlights.
Yeah.
How much did we save by changing over Chicago?
I don't know.
Would take a year.
It's been a year. Or part of a year,
To
we should
light-
be able to
to light
see.
it?
What do you get in the budget?
No, to put
Doesn't
on
look
those
like
dimmer
much.
things that
The
don't use.
decrease, the LED,
Yeah.
whatever bulbs you put in.
That went up
I'm looking
in March
for
and
it.
April.
It went up? Yeah, but I'm saying,
Well,
we've
no, the
got,
cost didn't go up, the lumens
Didn't
went
save
down.
much money.
Yeah.
it didn't, I didn't think it did. I don't have street lighting. I'm looking for it.
There's still 4 left to do, or 6 left to do, but they need police department
It's
to.
$11,000.
11,000, what's been spent?
Up there?
No,
that's
they
what-
budgeted for this year,
budget for this
11,000.
year.
Okay. Do we have what was spent last year?
Is that gonna-
13,504.27.
There's another hike this month, isn't there? In addition to the 19%.
Public service, but we're not, are we with public service?
Eversource.
Eversource
I mean,
for
we're
those-
gonna
for those-
And we went with NG starting in December of this year.
Right.
That's
so-
for
so
buildings,
that's
that's
for the-
not for street lighting, probably. Street lighting probably still is billed by Eversource. Ever.
Just
I
the
think
service, the service provider, there's one little section that is part of the street lighting.
If we spent 13,000, 13 and a half, how did we drop it to
So
11?
we'd like to drop it because we're doing that NG now and it should be a little bit less.
But last year, I thought we renegotiated, during budget, we renegotiated all our electrics.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, can a I'm just asking, can a municipality go with someone other than Eversource? Like New England Power or ENH Power or?
We just did that whole thing with Lakes Region Planning and we're with NG.
Which started this
Started in
December,
December.
so we don't know where we're headed, so you're hoping it's gonna cover.
But you still pay Eversource.
We still pay Eversource a
You
portion.
pay Eversource no matter what,
Correct.
yes.
And there's another increase in addition to the 19% that I believe kicks in this month.
But is that-
The
that's
biggest
not for
chunk of this
transmission,
comes
it's
from
for
Chicor.
Mm.
The most streetlights are in Chicago.
It's a
The high
that's
intensity.
town.
It still looks like a
Yeah,
land.
yeah.
But you said we can't shut half those lights off, correct?
We can shut them all off.
Well, I mean, but I thought there was discussion that we couldn't shut, it's either gotta be all or nothing.
No. I mean, we've got, I know there's several, that we shouldn't be being billed for the street light, or not the street light, but the caution light in Chicago anymore that we were being billed for, so I want to make sure that's off the bill. We've got the one in South Tamworth that we paid for, the blinking light there.
It's still on the bill.
We pay for 2 lights at the junction of 113 and 25, one of which is not working at the moment. there's one in the village here not working, there's one up by Remick Museum that's not working, we pay for them, whether they're on or off.
Well, and that's the
So
same
you
thing. I
should
would
let me
also
know
like the
and how
fire
you get that
department
on.
go through, because like I said, there's a light down on Route 16, and if you go by the address of the light, it's down by Market and the Pines, and there's nothing down there that I know of for a town light down
You know,
there.
this happens every year with the street lights out, and if you'll give us a list, if somebody give us a list, and between the 5 of us, we can go check on, we can each do a couple, and all you gotta do is write down a number on a pole,
Right.
get it back to Darlene, and, you know, that, it's worth a phone call, but let's do
I
it.
know, but they're taking upwards of a month, so what we need to do is not check it once, we need to go back, because if they're not providing the service, they shouldn't be charging us.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
it was over a month to have that light
Right.
changed at South Tamworth.
Yeah, well, that was a change.
That was a little different, but.
That was a little different, but again, they're charging because they're not speeding up to come fix your streetlights, but they'll continue to charge you whether you're getting
Correct.
service.
Becky,
So-
that light down by Market and the Pines, we pay for that.
No, it was an address given and it's listed for Chicago Station. It's on a poll number with the address given when I brought it up. It's somewhere between Barton's and Market and the Pines if they're recording a street light there. They're pretty sure it goes with the fire department, but if Rich can check which lights.
We do pay for light at North Way and
Right.
Route 16.
But I'm saying is the fire department can check the poles on their buildings where they've got
I'd be
lights. It would
glad to
help
look
us
at the
out.
list again, make sure that we're not getting
Will you
charged.
do
for
that?
Okay.
Yeah.
You take a look at the list and tell us,
I'll go around and
tell us
check the
which,
lights, I need a night to go out and drive
which
around.
poles
anyway.
I'm supposed to check every 2 weeks.
So we're gonna
Let's split that up.
table this one?
Well, no, I say
Well,
keep it at 1,100 and we'll work from
11,000.
there, yeah.
1,100?
11,000.
11,000.
I'm trying. I know.
All right, street, general health.
Health,
Health general, done.
I don't
Wait
think
a
we
minute,
did
I don't
health
think we
officer
are,
last
no.
year, last time.
No,
We don't have one, so.
Well, but that's pending, let's see what
Right.
happens.
But can we
Although-
cut that back to a stipend of 500? It's been a stipend of 500 for
Right, it got jumped up.
25 years, and usually it was done by a select person on top of that. And I don't know that, I'm trying, you can help me out here, Steve, you guys been here longer. When did we ever have a deputy health officer in this
We
town
always did.
that received a stipend?
Mm-hmm.
It was never budgeted before. Wasn't budgeted
I
before
don't know
this
if she-
past year for
actually,
18.
We always had one, I don't know if they took their money.
Well, I say there was never a stipend budgeted, so again, I think it needs to go back to the way it was.
$500?
500 for the health officer, and
250 for the,
it's never been
I know.
budgeted. It wasn't budgeted until last year.
You're right,
for
it wasn't,
250.
we always had one, but it wasn't
It
budgeted
was
until
never
last
I
year.
think that she requested.
Right,
Right,
Yeah.
but
but it was a new person,
Yeah,
right.
so,
Yeah, I mean, I've got 6 and 300, and I'm happy to go to 5 and 250.
Oh, so you want 250 still in deputy or no?
yeah, I would.
Although Chief's recommendation was a substantial, you know, to have somebody who's gonna catch up with the, well, if we can get somebody for that price, that'd be good. It ain't me.
And then I go down to the line of testing. We've never had a testing supply line before. What do we?
And we didn't, yeah, I didn't do this budget, so.
I know.
I'm not sure. I don't remember what it was for.
it's for
to be
water
honest
testing and
with you.
stuff.
Water
supplies.
Water
Right.
supplies.
Yeah,
And-
water bottle for water testing.
And that's high.
The
Well, I
water
know
bottles
the
are-
issues that was worked on this year.
Yeah, I do too, and if they had done their research, they would have seen that same area had been worked
Right.
on in 2005 and wouldn't have spent all that money, but water bottles are free. Water testing runs, depending on what you're testing for, can run anywhere from $50 to $150 a test. So I think we can drop that down, because water bottles are free, you can get them right from the state of New Hampshire. They'll send you all you want.
You really think that we're gonna find a health officer to do it for $500?
Yeah. Even if it goes back to the selectmen like it used to be.
No.
Well,
Yeah.
Good luck.
you want to do 500?
No. One of the things that we, in the budget meeting, we never could get how often they go out, how often,
Yeah.
we never got a clear answer of how many times in a year they're utilized.
You know, part of the interesting thing is how often they go out is important, but when they go out is more important, because the deal is, she gets a phone call, or one of the selectmen gets, hey, my neighbor is, and then you call up the health officer and you say, look, you gotta do this. The school is, or beer camp, whatever. And it has to be done now. It can't be done, I'll get to it. It can't be done, you know, we're talking some pretty serious.
But the problem with those is I don't know how you've been doing it, because as far as I know, the RSAs, the health officer doesn't have the right to say, you're shutting down your house now, here's a cease and desist. Only the select body have that. So you're going out and saying, you need to work it out, or this needs to be cleaned up, this is a whatever to whatever.
Correct.
I just think we try it for a
And we
year,
hear
and
most
we.
things a landlord-tenant dispute.
Right.
The
And
ones
we
I've been on, and I've only been here for, a few years.
This
but
year there was a lot of them, landlords.
The ones I've been on is, hey, look, we got this emergency right now, right here.
But they do go in and just, do the schools, do the paperwork from the state to look at all the schools and, all that. The nursing home, or not the nursing home.
Welfare,
Main way.
the welfare officer calls upon them for a variety of situations.
But I want to see, because there are, because there are other agencies that go in to May's Way to investigate, not a health officer. Health officer goes in.
Not investigate, just to go
To
in.
inspect.
To inspect.
A health officer, I want to see those regs, because there's a lot of other things that's supposed to be going in, unless they're getting called saying, there are cockroaches running all over the restaurant countertop, can you come in? Then the health officer would go in and say, yes, I see them, you need to clean it up. If they're not cleaned up in 6 hours, and I go to the Board of Selectmen, and they issue a cease and desist to function order. That's not what I'm seeing happening in this town.
Health officer.
That would be a state.
That
But
would be
it would
state,
but it
not
was-
the select,
well,
board, the
it-
state.
Cassie.
I make a recommendation that Becky be the
Cassie.
welfare officer, the health officer.
I just like to say that, at least from my version of what I got at being on the budget committee was, if the next health officer wants to have like just a book that says, this is how many hours it takes to do the health officer in a year, and then come back and say, it takes out actually this much more, I think that the stipend should be raised. That would be something, but just to say it should be raised because, and then not have
That don't
data.
help us now hiring somebody,
No,
does it?
Well,
Let's
no,
put it
but
back to-
that's
So if
all.
I put it at $500 and I say, who wants to be the health officer? How many people can do that for $500?
How many people know how
I'd
much
do it if I could.
time it takes? I mean, is it gonna take as much time as the general assistance officer who doesn't?
You never really know,
Yeah,
because you don't
yeah.
know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You don't
But I
know
know,
what's
I know
But you're on a
the calls we
24-hour
got
call.
this year.
Well, there were three instances in the last 4 years when the entire Board of Selectmen went, because the health officer wanted the entire Board of Selectmen to go.
So there's 5 of them. I would think that it could be easier to divvy up and have time for one of them to be the health officer than if there was only 3.
Anyway, I'm for the 500, we work it out, we see how much time it takes, and go back to the way it was, and I'll stick with the 250 if you wanna pay 250 for a deputy, but it's
think
never
that-
been budgeted for before.
I think the position might go wanting for $500.
I agree with you.
I
Steve.
don't,
What do you
Steve,
think it should be, Steve?
it won't go wanting because the selectmen therefore have the responsibility to maintain it, which has been done for how many years, Steve? Only last year did you appoint a health officer that wasn't a selectman.
John Roberts was it for years. Dr. Emmett was
Yep, for years.
for years.
I say we go back because this is a tight year, let's do it this year. If a selectman has to do it, we document the time and see what's
So you're
involved.
volunteering
Well,
to
we
do
need
it?
to, somebody needs to be appointed, it can't just be.
Yeah, it's gotta be appointed, it's
Well,
gotta be
yeah.
state.
Appointed, so.
I realize
Yeah.
that,
Right.
but we
So it
haven't
can't just
appointed
be
it.
Whoever feels like going out, goes.
So I'll feel comfortable
I-
doing it to
I-
500 if Becky said that she's gonna do it.
I said if I'm here. Because it's an election year.
It's what?
It's an election year.
Oh.
The-
You don't have to be a selectman.
No, you don't.
So.
You could still do it for 500.
I still could.
What if they only get one call a year? That's not a bad deal, is it? 500?
Not bad, no. It's a hell of a gamble though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You get two, that's still not too bad.
So I'm carrying the fire chief's recommendation on this. I should leave
So
that
we're
home
doing
too.
500.
I want some statistics, I want some data that says the driver is, we need it for this amount. I need some data to do that, not just, oh, well, I think.
If we're gonna do this for $500, why don't we discuss this, or have somebody discuss this with a recommendation that the chief made?
What did the chief make, the recommendation?
He wanted
Recommended an individual.
$3,000 here.
2,000.
He wanted, in that total budget, he wanted $3,623. I thought the budget would be sufficient at $1,175.
Would you change the test?
And that was 600 for the health officer, 300 for the deputy, $60 for FICA, because that's gonna go down because you're not paying them the 2,000. $15 for the Medicare instead of 33, because that's gonna be less, and the mileage I left the same.
And
And
what's,
I took out the
And no
$1,000 for
testing.
testing supplies.
and what's this? What's the salary?
600 is what I had.
Are you all right with that, Becky?
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Dan?
I'm with you, Steve. We're at a,
We're gonna put this on.
and maybe we should wait for Aarron. I mean, we're not voting on
Right.
anything anyway,
We're not
so.
voting on anything anyway, we're making
Yeah,
suggestions.
so-
Make a budget.
Yeah.
He took it out.
Supplies, you get your bottles, and, I mean,
Yeah, I'd like to
I'm
talk to
not sure
Richard
what the
more.
health
Richard
officer-
can
The
give us.
supplies are free, but the tests are gonna cost.
Right, the
you.
tests are gonna cost you, if you have to test the water sample,
what's our
because
history on what we've tested in the last 5 years? Are we gonna now start running a water testing service for everybody that thinks they've got a problem with their water? Is that what we're gonna do?
You can get it tested for free at FW Web. They'll test your water for free.
but they don't test for what some of the stuff, for sewer contaminants and stuff is what they, or the specialized testing they did this year.
Right, but again, my comment, are we going to be going to houses and saying, we'll test your water for you?
And the question comes, are we doing a position or are we doing a person?
We're gonna test the
So-
water if the welfare officer says, hey, we're paying rent at X, and I've got some concerns about the health of, then if we tell the landlord to go.
And the question is, are we required to make sure they have better than palatable water, like we have out here in the fountain out here?
Yes, if the welfare officer says,
But do we need to do fancy tests so we can take it to Webb and say, is this drinkable water? Test it.
I don't think,
And you're right, it goes to different places. If there's a question, a lot of it goes down to the state to say, you got this issue. So it's not, I say we go back and try it until we get some better handles on it, because like this is the first year that we've heard all these problems for people that have been in this town for so long.
I say let's talk to Richard and find out exactly what he does.
yeah, let's take a
Well, I
look.
know one thing that he did is they spent almost 20 days testing a set of water samples and visiting with people on one area that had been already previously tested for the same questionable stuff in 2005, with no findings from the
And
state.
this is the health officer detail?
Yeah.
And to date, they spent $672.
On what?
Nothing.
One was the expenditure, right?
No, there's
Prior year.
We don't have expenditure here.
There's no-
Actual, $500 for, $31 for the FICA, there's nothing here for water testing.
So,
So where did the water testing get charged that was done? All right, that's another one to take a look at, I guess.
All righty.
that service, yeah, we're gonna pay.
Done.
God, it's too bad we couldn't pay off early.
Not this year.
I know.
Further discussion on debt ser,
Hmm.
Debt debt service, we are all set.
Yep,
That's
done.
enough. Can we go back to the other one that's really, waste disposal, recycling?
Yeah, we don't have,
Which is the landfill. So,
4324.
For the
You're talking about
The
the
monitoring.
Durrell Road?
monitoring,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's 5320.
Can that ever
All set with
change?
that.
We
It
have-
does, depending on what tests they have to do every year, so that's the price we got from
We
HEB.
just got that in.
Yeah.
I think we just got slammed with, wasn't it $8,000 or something this year? We paid a lot of money this
Yeah,
year.
this
Because
has
the
to,
licensing that he
right, there was
didn't have.
licensing, and then they had to do an extra test.
Right.
Every other year, there's a certain test.
Right.
So we were low on the budget,
So-
but why, so you haven't got that bill in yet?
The prior year expenditure was 6421, we've got one more bill.
Wait a minute. Budgeted, audited, prior year to date. But is that 8,000 still coming in there, so it's gonna be 14?
No, that's just a little bit left. No, that's part of it.
That's part of the 8,000,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm surprised there isn't a bill from the state, because those ladies came, remember we had a rifle, get them in on that thing somehow.
And I think we had, let's see. And so we had the grant paperwork as well, and it sounds like we're not doing any grants, from what I hear from,
Oh, you're talking about,
You're-
CDBG.
Are we on the new sheet, we've given up on grant, okay.
so it doesn't look like Dana's gonna do the opioid and any of those.
Can he say,
He said he's
I
not
thought
gonna
in
do
his
any
thing that he had
grants.
grants that he was gonna do for the.
Only if the town matches, and he said with the time, the 7,500 had to be matching, so we had to put in 75, but we had to do the whole amount. He said he was passing
One was
on
the
those
radar
this year
sign,
because
one
Right,
was the
but
laptop,
Cassie's not
and
gonna
one
do
was
the
the
grants.
distracted
Could we check with Richard again and Robin about Scott Road culvert? Because there's one way in and one way out, it's the same way. And Robin is familiar with that thing.
Okay.
Scott Road's not
I'll
big
ask.
money, but it's money. Thank you.
Yeah, she said the
Well,
stuff
it'll be
available at
$10
the
if
end
you're
of the
gonna
year.
put a bridge in, you can't use a culvert anymore. State won't let you.
Are we done with grants?
Yeah.
Well,
The other one we were gonna talk about from last week was we don't have a full board yet again, so never mind.
The
For what?
selectmen's budget, 'cause I don't
That's the
think
one,
we really
but
got that one.
but we wanted a full board, and now Aaron's not here, so.
Right,
We'll
right,
put that
asked
off
to
for next
cut.
week.
We're cutting everywhere else, I said, why can't we cut the stuff on budget? Well, we cut it by 500 already.
No, I cut it in, but nobody wants to listen to this.
Well, I
Can't
know,
hear you.
but originally we cut it
Nobody wants to
500.
hear what I really want.
okay, good.
Those
Good
were-
thing I can't hear you.
I wanna take it down $2,547.
What are you
Selectmen's
cutting?
budget?
What am I cutting? I'm
Wait a minute. Go ahead.
from the selectmen's salary line,
Mm-hmm.
15,000.
15,
15,000 for
You're gonna make it
five
50.
selectmen.
you're gonna make it
3,000
15,000.
apiece, bang, yeah. No,
Oh, you're making it
That's changed from last
15,000, that's different, because you said you were gonna take it down to 500, which
well,
would
they-
have put it.
yeah.
So you're gonna wanna make
And the
it.
FICA will reduce,
Yeah.
you know, a couple hundred. The Medicare will reduce some. And training, I took it from the 1,000 last year to, or they wanted 750 this year to 200. Newspaper advertising, 600. Dues and subscriptions, 5,554. And the contingency line of 600, I made 0.
What's all the dues and subscriptions?
We took over
Yeah.
Lakes Region and the municipal because more than just, it used to be charged out to economic development, and you guys did that last year because more people use those associations than just economic development, so we said put it
Makes
in the
sense to be in
selectmen's.
What's the selectman's salary now?
3,000 plus 500 for the chair.
And I said, I even wondered if we could cut that more because it is a bad budget year, and if we're asking every other department to cut by 10 to 15%, I thought we
This
could
is
drop
about
it down to
11%.
2,500 to each
I wouldn't do
selectman.
that.
Huh?
I don't think that's fair.
I mean,
You guys do a lot of
this
work.
is 11% cut.
Don't know what you're doing, but I think you guys do a lot of work. It's a big job.
Well, but we're asking every other department that does a lot of work to take a cut.
I know,
too.
but you're not cutting salaries.
Well,
Yeah.
Maybe you are, but I mean, $3,000, come on. It's not my call, but that's my opinion.
I'm trying to have skin in the
I-
game like
and I told
everybody
you,
else.
Willie, I appreciate that,
You know.
but I still think 2,500, what you guys do.
3,000.
no, he's saying 2,000. I said I wanted to cut that a little bit more, but
So
we needed a full
we're gonna
hearing.
revisit this again next week though, with the
We're
full
gonna
budget.
do that every
with the full
time.
department.
Yes, so.
Keep that
Municipal
page.
building is the same.
Next thing on the agenda is the TVA.
Well, there was questions on that from a couple board members, so, and I don't know that you've actually had a full discussion. If you're ready to talk about it tonight, if not.
Well, I guess
Next
it
week.
Well, we better hurry. 'cause
I
that
guess,
meeting's
yeah,
on
because
That's
meeting's
right.
Thursday, so,
Wednesday.
or Wednesday.
Wednesday, so
Wednesday.
So we don't have another meeting before then,
Right,
so.
correct.
The question
Question
came
is-
up, oh, go ahead.
We were gonna have,
Were we gonna have the
Legal-
lawyer to come or
legal
not, because we
representation?
don't have any talking points now, so why did we need the town lawyer to?
That's good, that's right, because we can't say anything, can we?
We can't what?
yeah, we can interrupt anytime we want. Don't you read that?
We can ask questions, but we can't give statements in regards to it, so, which changed, it, as she said, when I originally thought it was gonna be the selectmen and the TVA, then it got changed, planning board TVA, which is fine. We were gonna have our lawyer there with our talking points from the selectmen's point of view, but
Doesn't the planning board have a legal line item?
Same.
Why don't they bring the lawyer?
Well,
if it's
they
their
are.
meeting?
It's the same lawyer and the same.
I know, but
no, it's not.
No,
What's that budget?
no.
It's not the
They're-
same lawyer.
The TVA is bringing their lawyer, Ken
Right.
Dargill.
Right.
yeah, so
And
we're
my
at a
knowledge is
disadvantage.
the only lawyer that will be there.
Right.
I
For
don't-
the TVA.
That's not good.
So, I mean, Matt was willing to come, but when and he's still willing to come, it's on his calendar. When we originally talked about it, it was gonna be the selectmen's meeting. Well, now it's not the selectmen's meeting, but he still feels he should be there just in case there's questions that need to be addressed from the board's perspective.
I would think, because it's gonna be a town issue.
I definitely
Wouldn't
want
hurt.
it.
Right. Right.
It's a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
I hate to
I'm
spend.
sorry.
It's a huge
Well,
deal.
But I guess,
think it's money well spent.
what is he going to give them from the town's perspective? We've already heard, it's in the master plan, what from the select board can he give them for perspective?
For what?
That's what I'm asking, for what?
Well, I mean, I guess, you know, the only question is if something is said that our council feels is not
In the town's best
the
interest.
town's best interest, or.
They're sure bringing a lawyer, aren't they?
Well, they were to begin with,
Yeah,
so.
I mean,
Why are they bringing a lawyer?
Well, I have no problems with that, but what I'm saying is that it's the planning board and the TVA.
Well, Matt's representing the town. I don't care if it's the
Well, that's what I'm
planning board
saying.
or if it's the selectmen.
But do you guys anticipate, the planning board's here, may I ask? I mean, maybe they're not, nobody's here.
Yep, okay.
Are you anticipating?
I know that it was expected for the reasons that you said in case something came up, that there would be, Matt would be here. That's what from the last meeting.
It's $600 out the window.
I just think
It'll be
with the
money well
rules that
spent.
have laid down, I don't see the selectmen responding to a lot of
Look at it
stuff.
that way.
No, I don't
Be my span.
I don't think the selectmen should respond to anything,
But
however.
that was the whole point, we
if
were
there's a
supposed to have
question-
talking points if something was asked of us, that he was going to have some talking points that we were gonna review ahead of time, and we haven't seen them.
I
Because
believe
it's not
having
your
them there
meeting
would
anymore.
be, if
Correct.
somebody asked a question, I would hesitate, a legal question, I would hesitate to answer it. I would hesitate to take a stab at it. I would hesitate to you know, the whole purpose of this is to inform, you know, to get the word out and have folks understand the situation before town meeting. I'm not there to sway anybody to vote one way or the other, I'm just there to you know, somebody asks a question, if it's has something to do with legal ramifications, of which there are several.
And I can feel that the general populace that's sitting there is gonna ask the question, how does the Board of Selectmen feel about this?
You don't have to give that answer.
Not only
I'm just
that,
saying,
but we
but
can't.
what are we going to do? What are we going to do if the town votes to take this over? What are we going to do? What's our next step?
Wait, we don't have an opinion on that because there is no warrant article to have an opinion on.
You don't even
But
have to know
somebody's
that
gonna,
right now.
somebody's gonna say, okay, the town, this goes through,
It passes.
what is
What-
the town going to end up doing with it?
What is the Board of Selectmen going to do?
Well, the Board of Selectmen doesn't know what the Board of Selectmen's gonna do.
Well, we ought to have a plan.
That's why we thought we were having talking points.
That's what you probably should be thinking about.
Well, that's what I
Well, you
said,
talked
that's why I
about the
thought we were gonna
commissioners
have
and
some
he- that's what I
talking
thought
points,
too.
like the
And-
commissioners and then,
But you
you know.
talked about the, RSA 149, I, which is the commissioners, which is where you guys have
Wait a
been
minute.
meeting and.
Can we have one person at a time?
It's all right, I'm done.
Thank you, go.
I'm done.
Say it. I missed it.
We talked about RSA 149, AI, not A. And I think that's where everybody's been leaning.
Well, I mean,
So,
obviously,
I
the
mean, you
village
can't
district
do,
wouldn't work.
right, so,
Because the village district would be the same people that are doing it now, and they don't want to do it, so it wouldn't work.
They're not gonna do it.
so.
Well, and
I
so,
just- I
I mean,
just
so the
think that the
question
Board of
is, as a
Select-
board, are we going to say, well, if the town
It's gonna be
does
Matt
vote to
answering
take
those
this over,
questions.
we are going to establish a sewer commission, and the sewer commission will need to have 3 appointed sewer commissioners to run it.
No, we're not gonna say that.
Why?
I mean, that's one
They haven't
solution that
decided
somebody has come up
yet.
with, but the selectmen have to, if the warrant article passes, we have to have, I'm sure we have to have something following this informational meeting, a plan to what we're gonna do, and we'll have to answer to that, either in a public meeting that's taped, or in preparation for town meeting. But we're not gonna decide what we're gonna do prior to the meeting where we're all supposed to get as much information as we can.
Good question, I wonder why I'm going.
I'd like to have the same information that the voters have.
I mean, that's part of what the voters are gonna make a decision on, is what the whole picture looks like. So we're providing no fact, we're only allowing the village association to present the fact of, that they don't wanna do it anymore, and here's what they think we ought to do. And does that leave the voters with full knowledge of what the reality is? I mean, I think we have to plan.
If the town doesn't take it over, what other options are there?
The town takes it over.
Their option is they're going to dissolve
I
the
mean,
Tamworth Village Association.
But see,
And,
that's
and,
another
and the
question.
town will then take it over.
And then the
Right.
town will take it. So-
But they'll have
The
to go
lawyer
through
told
the
us that the
dissolution.
town does not have any obligation to take it over.
Okay.
So,
Good enough for me.
Then I'd have the lawyer there to say that at the
so
meeting.
why do you
But
say that
that's
the
my
town will
question.
take it over?
I don't think,
I read the fact sheet.
it's true. You read the fact sheet.
But if you think,
So
if
I-
the lawyer told you that,
Who'd
he
the
should be
fact
there.
sheet come from?
The
Their
DA.
lawyer?
But I think
Their
the-
lawyer.
I think the
Yeah,
attorney's
yeah.
gonna be there
Well,
speaking for them.
So with all due respect, can I just say, I think people are gonna expect the Board of Selectmen to have a position to say something, to not be sitting there like bumps on a log saying, well, we can't answer it, we won't answer the question, we'll think about that after it happens.
Well, that's why I
I-
thought we were
I-
getting
I-
a talking sheet for
Well,
us,
yeah,
so
no,
that we had
I
some reasonable
fully
answers.
expect you guys to step up and have at least some idea of
What's
what you're
gonna
gonna,
happen?
of what you're gonna say, but it's gonna be next Wednesday. And people are gonna expect it, and I'm sorry, but I will be very, very disappointed if you guys say, well, we're not answering any questions, because it hasn't happened yet.
Well, and that's what I said, when it was the TVA and the selectmen, we were gonna have a set sheets of answers so that if somebody asked something, we had something that we more or less had talked about. When it went planning board and TVA, it sort of went out the window, so I'm sort of at a loss, I agree.
You can still do that.
Well, I can, but then, yeah. But as you said, the TVA also, if they decide to dissolve, they have to file all that paperwork, and it ends up in the town's hands anyway. And that's the other thing. I mean, they've got 4 people that said they're basically gonna walk away from it come March.
skip that.
So the question is, can the town appoint commissioners without taking over the TVA to run, since we may end up with it anyway, can they appoint commissioners to take over, a sewer commission, to take over the TVA without?
Am I
lawyer there to answer that question.
Am I like losing it, or did our lawyer just sit here in a meeting that we had and said, there is no obligation for the town to take that
No,
over?
he did say that.
He did say that.
But,
So why does everybody keep saying that the
because
town will
when
take
you
it
go
over?
back and read the original paperwork, which I think he has, and that's probably a question we should be asking him before the meeting, it does say that if the town, the TVA dissolves, everything reverts back to the town of Tamworth. Their charter that they filed with the state of New Hampshire when they started, what this all says is if they dissolve,
But is that legally binding on the town?
that's the question I thought we were gonna get answered with some talking points, but.
Well, I thought that's what our lawyer already told
The TVA
us.
operates that system on a license from the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, but it's no different than Pine Tree operating their system on a sign off from the,
No, it is different. It's a license, as in who owned the system when it went in and could issue a license. I would think that that's a legal stumbling block.
well, we need our attorney to figure that out.
I think the
for us
lawyer
for
should be there with
It's
the.
an operator's license.
You don't have one lawyer on one side and not one on the other at a meeting.
Well, the question came up is, the rules basically said that nobody's responding. Now I'm getting that we are going to respond something, and I agree. If we're going to produce responses, the lawyer needs to be there.
I'd like to know how. First of all, the lawyer sat here and told us that we are under no obligation to take it over. Second of all, if the citizens of this town vote
No.
in the meeting and say, no, we're not taking it, how can we then take it?
I don't
We
think
can't.
it's, we
We
can't.
can't.
I think
However.
it dissolves, they would dissolve their association. The state will say you have a septic system here until some other, it's sold or this or that, the town will have to take it. To make sure it maintains its function because of the DES license on the septic. But that needs to be worked out. We thought we were gonna get some talking points concerning that.
Is it necessary to have a septic system or not?
State of New
Well, it
Hampshire.
makes things flow from here a lot better.
Because
Well,
it's
you
an-
know,
because
rather
it's
than
an established.
your own,
Well, because it's an established septic system, the state gets very leery and it's very difficult to put in another septic system when you've already got an established municipal system.
When it was originally put in there, any number of houses and businesses that could not expand the way they have or even maintain their current position. There are several entities that were talking about moving out of the village, and that's why it was built. So the town, the library, the store.
And at the
Well,
time, the
offices.
septic rules were a lot different than they are now.
And-
Now you can squeeze in septic systems where you couldn't before and stuff like that.
But you've already got a
You've
system.
already got a system, so the
So,
state won't come in and say,
Okay,
yes, you can.
abolish it.
Right. All right. So-
Our lawyer had recommended one method of, if it was in the town's purview. And I believe that Ken Coggle sat here and recommended the same situation, which was a commission.
I mean, I don't see any other option.
Right.
Well,
Well, it's not up to us, it's the town vote.
Well, no, it's the town vote whether they accept the system or
Correct.
not. But then we have to deal with it if they vote to accept it.
And
We've
if they
gotta
vote
do
to-
something.
Oh,
And if
if
they
they
vote
vote
to
to
not
accept it,
accept
I
it-
hear you.
But do you wanna stand there on March 14th and go, well, I guess we gotta have a meeting and figure out what we're gonna do, we own it now? Or when
Well,
does-
even
when
if
does
we
ownership
accept it,
have
should
time?
be some kind of a grace period.
Well, I mean,
before-
this is all facts that ought to be out on the table,
Yeah.
instead of just going, don't know.
And that's what I say, I thought we would have a grace period from ours, but again, so either bring the lawyer up here or, and I'd like to see what he might have for answers before we listen to him at the same time he does.
Maybe somebody should make a motion to have a lawyer there next week.
Well, we'd already had that on the agenda, so.
already there.
He's already there, what is that?
Well, he had it
No,
scheduled.
I mean, he's scheduled to be there.
Okay.
We can change it, but.
No, let's have him show up.
All right, then, next.
next,
Signatures.
So-
And we're done.
so-
Can we do public
Oh,
comment
wait.
before we do all the
Oh,
signatures?
sure, yep.
Sure, public comment before the signature file.
Go ahead.
Last week, or I've lost track of weeks, you tabled the nomination I put in for economic development for John Ferreira. And you were gonna like check out commissioner moments and all that sort of thing.
I have not had
It
a
doesn't-
minute to do that, I apologize.
Okay, but it's okay.
It's on my,
But since I'm having I'm sharing that meeting next Tuesday, and he thinks he's coming but my question is, he lives in 3 places. He lives in North Carolina, he lives in Molten Borough or Sandwich, and he lives at the house I told you about on, what do you call it? Thank you. So in other words, he's sometimes at one, sometimes at another, sometimes at another. He has an address, he pays taxes, and I guess I'm wondering at what point do we, like I live sometimes at my dad's in Orono, or I'm sometimes in Florida, or sometimes I'm here. And other people, they're here for the summer, then they go away somewhere else. I guess I'm thinking, what is the conclusion that you have for his being appointed as an alternate?
We need to find out what the difference is. We changed it for volunteer committee members, that they could be of any area.
And this is a volunteer.
No, you guys changed that to commissioners, and I do believe there is a separate set of standards about commissioners, and that's why she's gonna check with the attorney to see if you have to claim your residency in that town to serve as a commissioner. So we won't know until we check with the lawyer, and maybe since he's coming up by Wednesday night, we'll have an answer Wednesday night.
I'm at cross purposes with my sister. I don't believe there are separate rules for commissioners. I think commissioners don't have to live in a municipality or the state.
And I agree with you, Steve, and I think this is a no-brainer, and once again, we make mountains out of molehills here. He's a taxpayer in this town. He's an outstanding citizen. He's volunteering his services to a great committee, and we're sitting here debating whether or not he should spend his time volunteering to help this town. It just drives me crazy that we do that.
Would you?
I make a motion that we accept him, that he's allowed, whatever,
Alternate.
that he's allowed as an alternate.
Is he a taxpayer, Don?
Yeah, he's a big taxpayer. You ever seen this place?
He's not on the checklist, though.
Is there a smoke, the smoke?
No, that's right, he's
No.
on the voting
No,
checklist.
it's the.
Is there a second?
what checklist?
Does he
I
vote?
second it.
Oh, yeah, no.
Cassie?
No.
It's a very fine line between saying, well, they have 3 different homes and 2 in New Hampshire, 1 in a different state, to saying, oh, well, they only live in Canada part-time. Oh, they only live in a different country. Where do you draw the line of? I love that people volunteer in this town. That's great. But there needs to be I as a person that lives in town, want to know if it is commissioners, you need to be in this town, you need to be a resident of this town, and not just say, I own 5 acres of land in town, I can vote. Because then you're going to get a lot of people, I think, from the people that run the racetrack. Why can't they be on different committees and do things? And you're going to get all of the people that come in here every time the racetrack's a thing, coming in and saying, why are they on this committee? You can't have it both ways.
We're talking economic development. He has a business in this town. He's very interested in this community.
He has a house.
He has a house and a business.
Yeah.
If he wants to volunteer his services as an alternate, why are we even discussing it?
Because folks want to, I seconded your motion, and under the order of discussion, we can pass this motion, and Pat can, it's an open meeting, that fellow can attend, but we have to understand it's a correctable error too, if in fact we wrestle back.
And bear in mind, he's only an alternate. He's only going to sit if board members aren't there.
Correct, but once we get an opinion or there's a.
I will vote no on this. I feel we find out whether the commissioner needs to be a resident of the community or not. When
Okay,
we
I'll
find that
take
out-
back-
When we find that out, then we'll go ahead and do what we
I'll
need.
take back my motion, I'll wait for the other member to come, and then we can vote on it.
And I'll retract the second.
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully we'll have an answer by Wednesday night next
Great.
week.
And, you
Of
know,
course, we
And then we can appoint him
We
Thursday
can
night
go.
at our meeting.
make decisions based on fact.
make a motion to table
It's already tabled.
He pulled his motion, so it's
it was
tabled.
tabled till today, and make a motion to.
I already did, I already tabled it.
To table it to whatever the date certain is. Other issues? Yeah,
The, sorry, the townhouse, what was in the contract for the guy that is supposed to do the walkway? I mean, is he supposed to be clearing it with like salt or ice melt or what?
Yes.
And, which is he using? Because it's dammed up and it's like a
Skating rink.
ice rink.
Did you call him?
I don't have his number, I don't even know who it is.
All right, I'll-
But I just don't know how is it specified
I, off the
for
top of my
him
head,
to
I
use?
don't know.
Because it's bricks and stuff, you shouldn't use rock salt, I mean, but we went out and bought ice melt to try to clear it for like when the contra dance. It was a good like 6 or 8 feet of like a skating rink at the very beginning, right from the road.
Parker used to bring buckets of sand up there.
I brought a
Look at
bucket of
that.
sand too. But I mean, you sand, I mean, it will just blow off. You need something that will penetrate into it. It's thick ice.
No, it's gonna track that.
And part of that
She's gonna track that
is,
inside
And
too.
we don't want a lot of sand tracked in on the floor.
and part of that's the drainage there. Where the walkway ends and the curbing ends, it needs to be shoveled next to the curb.
Right beside the
so
curb.
water drains by.
Because
instead of-
like a week ago, my husband was there with the plow and he plowed right along the curb and so it would drain. But the last 2 storms, it's not plowed that way and it's just puddling up there.
Yeah, that's part of
And
it.
the other thing, does he not have to be reminded about the fire escape on the
the-
backside of the building?
It has
That's
never,
never been
it has not
shoveled.
been shoveled once this year. And they had the country dance and that was not shoveled. And the one on the side, that's a skating rink at the bottom of that one too.
I know the fire escape is in there.
And I don't know if that can be done, I mean, that's a huge pile of ice now.
Because it's where the roofs all come down. I mean, it should have been done each storm to keep up with it, but that's gonna be his problem now.
David?
Oh, can I make a recommendation? After the tax rate brouhaha, for a better word, you guys are looking at trying to get cuts to make the taxes not go up next year. My suggestion is that you establish a target total spending that you want before you start deciding what you can afford and what you can't afford. Rather than base it off of what people request, base it off of what you think the town can afford for tax rate. Because if I understand it, last year we approved $3.6 million at town meeting and a $700,000 offset from undesignated funds. It's like,
Oh, yeah, this year's something.
for this year.
Right.
So that's like 20% of last year's budget. So if you want to hold the tax rate at what it currently is, then you need to cut 20% off of last year's spending. I think there's some big capital items this year. It's going to be tough, but my suggestion is have a target before you begin, because it's a lot easier to get motivated or to shoot for targets than to say, go through things detail by detail and saying, that's good, that's not good. You know, I think it'll get out of control. So that's my suggestion.
David, I think it's out of control, to be perfectly honest with you. I think it's out of control because we're looking at the municipal side. We're not the problem. The school's the problem. Let's face the facts.
Yeah.
We are cutting our departments, so the budget committee wanted to cut our departments so that they can't function. We cannot have a viable town that you want to take everything away from them. Then it's like, let's cut the hell out of the police department and then just have them park their cruisers in the PD and sit there. What good is that? Let's cut the highway department. So then he has 4 people that do nothing but sit in the highway department all day and twiddle their thumbs. We've got an obligation to this town that we have to take care of it. We're nickel and diming to death the municipal when we should be down at the school looking at their budget and going, we are just a small portion of this town's tax rate. And we all know that it's coming from the school, correct?
It's,
Somebody say
74%
something.
of
it's
coming from the
both the school and the town.
But you should,
But the town is 25% of it.
Yeah,
We're all one.
it's both, but nobody, everybody, like you say, goes to the town meeting, but not many go to the school, which I've been to, and I opened my mouth last year, and I'll open it again this year, because their budget is out of control. But when you're dealing with a union, and they agree to their union increases, there's not much you can do.
See, I keep hearing that. Madison just cut at one meeting, what they cut? $200,000 out of the school
It
budget?
can be done.
Just like that.
It can be done, but you have to have the nerve to fight. I mean, what they get, 4.5% increase last year?
But it's not just us. If you read the paper, Madison has now set together a concerned citizens group because their school got hit with the $1 million mold remediation thing last year. You're right, David, and I look at it, we appropriated another $221,000 just at the floor last year over what was in the budget. CIP, everything, or 200 and something. And you look at it and you say, yeah, do I want to give the town, we're going up, what, 36 cents this year? 30 cents? 36 cents versus a $5 increase if we really went back to what things are looking at. So are we going to have to increase next year? Yes, we are. But this is the year that, yeah, we're trying to keep it at the 36 cents. Maybe next year it's going to be 40 cents. I really hate to see a $1 to $2 jump in a year on people's taxes because a lot of people are having trouble struggling with their taxes now. And the budget committee is making recommendations. They did not say to cut. And most of those recommendations are the same recommendations that were made last year. So I guess you have to bite the bullet. And yes, I hope a lot of people get out to the school board meeting too, the school board budget meeting, and look at that as well, because I understand they're in the same predicament. They've heard people, and they're looking at cutting their budgets as well. But
Yeah.
I have looked at it saying, no, I'm not used to saying that next year I got to keep it at the same rate. I know the 700,000 was only to keep us from going up more, going up $1 or more. I would rather increment it up. So next year we might have to go up 70 cents.
We have to go up about $1.50.
That's my concern, is like if
And it's not sustainable. The people in this town cannot sustain that kind of an increase
But
here. And we're not saying it's your, I know you're in the police department, and you were the only person in that department for a very long time. Going back years, you were the only person. Then you had another policeman.
You're talking 20 years ago. Times have changed.
Yeah, times have changed, but the base rate for this town has not. The town is not gracious enough to accept new people with businesses.
But yet you attack economic development who's trying to get businesses in here.
But
see, that's where I kind
Cassie,
of
just say
but I
something
have
about the
to-
regard. Folks, wait, a little bit circular. Cassie, say something.
The budget committee has no say in the school budget.
Correct.
Correct.
So attacking us and saying, why are we cutting so much from this but not the school? We can't do the school. If we could, I was homeschooled. Do you think I care how much the school gets? I seem to function
I get
quite
zero
well from learning from her, who only had a high school education.
And I've never had kids in the school
In
system.
addition to what Cassie just said, I met with the chairman of the school committee 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
and I told him that I will be making a motion at the school meeting in March that they assign or implement a budget committee, because I think this budget committee last year did a great job, and this year did a great job. Unfortunately, last year the selectmen didn't listen to the budget committee. This year it appears the department heads and the selectmen are listening to them. I will be making a motion at school meeting. I'm not doing it underhanded. I've already told them that I'm doing that. I was also told by him that they are making some cuts in the school department. Maybe not enough, but to answer your question, I'm gonna be there. I've been there every year, so.
Please, please.
I just think that last year the budget committee had all kinds of recommendations. There was 3 selectmen sitting up there, They didn't take one of them. They didn't cut anything. And you guys took 400,000 out of the unexpenditure fund or whatever to try to offset taxes. Then this year, you guys are mad, you're mad at these people, volunteers who tried to recommend, but then you take 700,000. You're at 1.1 million that you had to take out to offset taxes, but you're mad at them for recommending cutting the budget? They have nothing to do with the school. I don't think you should be mad at them for what they've done.
Not mad at them.
Well,
I'm
that's
mad
how
at
you
the-
just came across.
I'm mad at the whole system, because
Oh,
you're
yeah.
sitting here, we're nickel and diming our budget to death. We're sitting here arguing over $100 here,
It all
$100
adds up in
here.
the end.
But yet the school gets carte blanche.
But
That's
they're
what bugs me.
union. I ran into that whole thing when I complained about things with the school when my oldest son was in first grade. They're union. You really don't have much say on them.
Only one part of the budget, though.
I want to get away
There's a lot
from
more there than.
the school. because
Yes, I know.
We cannot do anything at this
No.
meeting about the school. But my comment is, our budget was over $4 million this year. And we spent just over $3 million. So we have leaving, I mean, there are some expenditures still to be made out of last year's budget. But at this point, the way I've looked at it is $713,000 that has not been spent out of the budget we appropriated. That's 17.7%. We can cut something.
Some of that is.
You've got to reduce the budget where we can. And every one of those departments so far have come back in, they put in what I referred to as, here's my wish list. Oh, we've got a budget issue. Oh, well, here's what I can do.
Here's the
That's their
need
job.
list.
That's their
What
job,
need.
is to come back in and say, oh gee, you know, but a lot of times that never happened. And, you know, frankly, I'm probably gonna vote no on some things, because you've got to stop somewhere.
We just did.
Yeah.
But that's $700,000.
Well, go ahead. You-
That
go ahead.
$700,000 probably includes the fire truck. That's $384,000 that hasn't been spent, because that's in the operating budget. So,
That's still about 400,000.
it's still about four, I'm just, you
Okay,
know,
so
you're throwing numbers out, you gotta be
$400,000, and
careful that we're
right,
not.
But we just, but
So-
I look at the books, I'm sorry, our bookkeeping system here is so confusing for most people, including me, because it's not a in, out, in, out. We do it
That's
in
municipal.
BSMI, and it's, you know, so many lines, you can't figure out whether you're talking about the FICA or you're talking about the paper that we put in the computer. You know, it just gets overwhelming. I mean, we should have these departments, it should be the salaries and the FICA and all that stuff shouldn't be in the department's budget. That should be one line, personnel. What's the figure?
See, well, I guess I look at it differently. I look at it with the figures that you just gave. That money that wasn't spent now goes into the general fund, which we will take out to pay the difference on the taxes. If you set a budget based on what you spent last year on your budget, for example, animal control officer, he doesn't know how many hours he's going to be working, so we put down $2,000. He doesn't have many animal calls. He only spends $1,000. So then the budget committee comes in and says, you only spent $1,000 last year, we're cutting your budget down to $1,000 this year. In my mind, what you're telling all these department heads is, spend everything that you get, leave nothing behind, because the next time you go before a budget, they're gonna say, well, you didn't spend this, so therefore now you're gonna be cut to what you didn't
Trying to get
spend.
some new department heads if that's the philosophy.
That's right.
That's-
If that's their philosophy.
I'll tell
they
you what,
shouldn't be doing
that's
that
how the
job.
federal government works.
And it's
Well,
not
yeah.
good, is it?
Look at
No.
the trouble
We
we're
don't
in
wanna be
now.
that way.
One of the things, Dan, when we met, and it was a great budget committee, we had limited time. We were given a binder in October that had August information. And we had to keep pulling information. We sat down with each department. They had updated things. We got information that you're not getting. And I would be glad to go over it, whether it needs to be said here or wherever, but we based it on the information we were given when there were no cameras, no selectmen, and it's totally different. A lot of the stuff we're seeing from people. And we sit here and write, they never said that. They never said that. Where did that come from? That's what we're getting. So we based it on what we got, and you're getting different information. So don't be upset with us. We based it on what we got.
And the other thing too, I think, they can correct me if I'm wrong, is that when you say about either spend it all or you're not gonna get it next year, I think they looked at several years of a certain line item wasn't used 3 or 4 years.
6
I
years, some of it.
think that they did a great, last year that group did a great job, like she said. You guys didn't support them. This year it appears that you guys are supporting them. It appears that way. And the department heads are.
I mean, a couple weeks ago, you weren't here, and there was no camera. But the fire, Jimmy Bowles comes in, and he cut $1,000 more than they did out of his budget, willingly. I mean,
Was that Rich or Jim?
It was
Jim.
Jim.
Jim and Rich, they were
Jim
both
and Rich.
here.
But I mean, Jim brought it up first. He said, I went through it again. He goes, and I took $1,000 more than what they asked.
And
So they
Richard-
really weren't that far off in the ballpark.
And the thing of it is, I agree with you, David, we have to have a plan here. And the other side of this, which we haven't discussed much, is we've got to look for new revenue sources.
Yep.
There are different areas in this town that some people have to pay revenue on and others don't, that we need to look at to make sure it's across the board. What else we can come in for revenue expenses and stuff, revenue to bring in. So we're really looking at that too, but what it was what was raised from the floor last year, what we didn't get in revenue, how can we keep the taxes from going up $3? And we know that the next couple of years are gonna be rough years because taxes are gonna have to go up to fund people.
Yeah, I guess I'm not clear when you said things got raised at town meeting. The total.
Over expenditures from last year is what I'm talking, the difference between what was raised at town meeting for town meeting expenses last year and this year was considerable, $200,000.
But that was stuff that was in the budget.
It was, part of it was in the budget, part of it was increased at town meeting. There was some.
The net was a decrease at town meeting.
There were some departments that went in at town meeting and said they hadn't put this in their budget, they had to raise this.
The net was $27,500 less than the printed budget. So it didn't go up.
I just have one more thing. I have no idea. I've lived in South Tamworth for 34 years. When Parker was doing his budget last week, says that it's $500 as a fee to Sandwich to use Bear Camp Pond. Why are we paying that? I lived there 34 years and never ever knew that we could use that pond. Not that I'm gonna go, but I mean, why? Is that a waste of $500 every year for how many years? How many residents are using that?
I bet you there's quite a few residents.
A lot of them are.
There's a lot of
They
them.
can use it with their.
Where is it? I don't even know how to get to it.
With their parking, with their dump sticker.
Right.
But
the thing is saying a lot doesn't give you
a lot.
number.
Is it 5? You know, I mean,
Right.
it's like, I mean, is it worth
But it's
$100 for each one of those persons to use
I don't
that?
know. It's important
When we
to those,
have
if
White
it's 5
Lake?
people and they enjoy it, it's important to them.
But Chicago Lake, they can go there. It's not costing us anything.
There's an awful lot of folks.
I don't think there's a whole lot. I've never heard of anybody ever going there.
That's not a bad swim from the beach up to the island.
I know
sit in
it's-
the
I
island,
know.
Swim back.
That's
You know who it is?
Yeah,
It's
no, that's why I wouldn't go
a
in
lot of
the
young
pond.
moms with the kids, because the beach is there's no rocks, there's no.
It's a quiet. I know the town clerk talks about it a lot in the summertime to people that come in.
Could I ask a question overall, for
Yeah.
not any specific anything? In general, I guess a lot of places and companies and things I've dealt with, when there needed to be a budget cut, they would say, overall, we need to cut the budget by X%. We need every department to self-cut and bring your self-cut budgets to us. And that way the departments are deciding what's important and not important and whatever. And that's why I felt, first of all, the suggestions to me was get rid of her whole department. We don't even want economic development. Was different. So the thing is, I guess I'm thinking, if everybody's from fire to economic development to electric company to selectman's office, whatever, if everyone said, okay, what can we go with? I came in here and I cut myself 600 plus 1,100 out of a $3,900 budget. I said, here, take away this. Absolutely great. And then you basically almost cut me in half of my entire budget. And I'm not gonna go over, so at some point I would like to talk to you about that, I don't want to now. But in general, why don't you just say to every department next year, we need you to please self-cut this amount, and let us, I mean, mine's a tiny thing, but the bigger things.
A lot of most departments did come in and do that.
You know
Just
what,
like we
that's
did.
the biggest complaint that I heard. When your report came out, the biggest complaint that I got from all the department heads who I talked to personally said, you know what, if they wanted to do that, they should have sat down with me and said, let's cut the budget, and where can you do it? Who are they to come in? They don't know nothing about my budget. They don't know what's important, what's not important. So they go ahead and cut it. So they were offended because you cut their budget without sitting down with them and saying.
Recommended.
Recommend, yes.
Recommended.
Correct,
We
recommend.
didn't cut
I take
any.
it, yes.
any power.
Correct, I know that.
Neither
do we.
But Dan, last year the same thing happened. I came in here every Thursday night with recommendations from the budget committee with the department head here, and we read off our recommendations that we had made, and the department sat here. No different than we've done this year. The only difference is that a handwritten report was done this year instead of weekly things, and the department heads received that ahead of time. Instead of coming here like they did with me last year, they didn't know what I was gonna say until I got here. And it's the same thing.
And
there's
another
no
thing,
easy way to
no
do it.
department head, well, it's not a department head. There was a couple that I did receive nasty phone calls from. You know, accusing us of all kinds of bad things. But I didn't hear from any department heads for any explanation about anything.
And I think the other thing here was we were rather surprised at the tax increase.
Mm.
We left here with a tax increase, what we thought was gonna be reasonable, and within 24 hours, we were looking at almost a $4 increase.
And
Taxes were cut
So
70
I
cents when I sat here Thursday night.
Right.
I went to the gym Friday morning and bragged about the connection I had at this town. Taxes are going down. That was 5:30 in the morning. At noontime, they went up 36 cents.
So, I think from last year to this year, I mean, Bruno keeps on saying that the selectmen didn't look at or take recommendations. I mean, I know I did in my
Support.
department.
Support.
I looked at the part-time position and what the difference would be, just like I did this year. So we did do a lot of things.
You weren't a selectman. I'm saying the selectmen didn't support the budget committee.
Well,
Got the scorecard.
and I think what's good this year is you did have something in writing. The department heads got to see it ahead of time. That didn't happen last year. So how could they respond to something they didn't even know that was coming? Because Becky's sitting here that night, you know, they weren't prepared. This way, they were prepared to look at things, make decisions. I don't know.
There were recommendations.
What was that?
To be angry.
No, they weren't. Not everybody was angry.
Okay.
You got some of those phone calls.
Well, that's not everybody.
No,
No.
not
Some
everybody.
people.
The
I have a
original-
question
the original issue
about
here-
revenue.
The original issue was David's point about we should at least consider and perhaps do the math early on and decide what we're gonna need from the department heads, because in fact, the savings that we've had here have been on operating budgets. And the people who are most knowledgeable about the operating budgets are the people who are drawing them up. And I think that those folks working with the budget committee can probably do at least as well as they've done this year, and probably substantially better where they could find in cooperation with folks. Because the budget committee might well represent the concerns of the folks who are gonna vote at town meetings. So to get that information, I think would be pretty good.
I have a question about land, land tax.
Current use?
Current use. What is it? $1?
Oh, no.
But the fact is, I've done some work on that, and
The reason I'm asking is you have a lot of land in current use.
The state sets the rate.
Right.
The state says.
The state
The
sets
state
the
sets
rate.
the rate.
We just
Parameter
got
rate. State.
so that's,
Right.
you know,
And we just got new parameter rates for next year, which is new since
I mean, that
2006,
would.
which
give
is
you a
new
more
since
income.
2016, so.
The town can't override what the state does.
if we increase across the board $10 per acre value, it'll only amount to about $5,000 to $6,000 in tax increase. That's the one. But the fact is, current use land does not take a lot of resources. That's one of the advantages.
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
But
I mean, you build a house on it, and it's gonna cost you more to have that house sit on that property than you're gonna get in tax if you've got one kid in the school.
in addition, the state had not adjusted their rates since 2016. They just sent out new rates, so.
What is how many acres does it have to be in current land use?
10.
10.
It doesn't
Or-
include the house lot.
Or it can be
Yeah.
some wetlands.
Right.
It doesn't
can
have
be
to
less.
necessarily be a 10-acre parcel.
No, it has to be a 10-acre parcel, or it has to have a conservation easement on it.
Well, I guess the wetlands can be
There's
put in.
exceptions for wetlands.
That's some-
Total
But-
wetlands
But
and
the
buildable
total
land.
lot size has to be at least 10 acres.
But again, things
in-
we
in
need
addi-
to
In
look,
addition to whatever's privileged.
things we need to look at is that current use land, say they put it in for, I don't know, woods or whatever, is it posted, or are they getting the 20%? We need to look at current use properties just as we're reevaluating to make sure if it's posted and they no longer have access, like snow machines and stuff, that they're not getting the 20% recreational additional and stuff. That's stuff that this board has to do, and let make sure
Good.
we're getting everything out of the current use lands that we can.
Is there a limit to the amount of land that can be in conservation? I mean, because a lot of your land is in,
Doesn't change the taxes.
Right.
I know it doesn't pay the taxes.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't
change
change
the
the,
tax.
they still pay
But
taxes.
It does
if
not
I
change the
had
taxes.
50,000 acres of land and I want to donate it, well, sure. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Instead
I
of
do. There is.
having somebody come in and build something.
Conservation pays taxes on the land?
If it's in current use, it is taxed at a much lower rate per acre, depending on its SPI, which is the Soil Potential Index. And there's a whole bunch of other things. And they've changed the numbers a little bit. And we have to look at that and see if we're getting the top dollar we can for current use land. Most conservation easements are on property that are in current use. So you know, if they're in a conservation easement, they're gonna get the current use rate.
But to answer your question, yes, the town has to look at, which is why you have planning boards and stuff, they have to look at where can you say that, you know, 95% of the town, if it's in current use and you're only trying to function on 10%, yes, it may not be taxing your infrastructure, but at the same time, you're not generating any revenue. So, yes, planning boards and stuff look at types of things, master plans, whatever you wanna call it, they look at things like that to see how much
We
you
don't
can
have much
afford.
room to grow.
Well,
We got a lot of room to grow,
Yeah,
but
but if we can,
and I wanna get
it's not
back.
available.
I just don't think you have incentives for people to build in here when the tax rate's so high.
Well, you don't. And I mean, one of the things that I wanna bring back to the budget is, I went from 2013 to 2018, and the amount of money that we did not spend that was appropriated was $2,971,000
Over 5 years?
over 6 years. So that's $494 average, 1,000 average each year. And to tax me for that, I get upset. You know, it's my money, I should, and you know, so you figure what we've given back in the last 4 years is,
11, 14, 17.
1.73 million. So I'm trying to figure out, you know, I mean, we've got some money in the bank, but what's going on here? Where's our money going? What's the reason?
Well, for a lot of years, it sat and rotted while people in this town
You're right.
working sub-minimum wage in the tourist industry were losing their properties,
And I
and we
don't-
were sitting on
And I
a
agree that we
gajillion
should
dollars.
be putting it back to them, but the fact is when I look at the 2.9 million, and we've only spent 1.7 and given it back, where's the other million
We
two?
still have $1 million in the undesignated fund.
So we got about $1.2 million
We have $1.2
in the bank,
there.
okay, which we need.
Not in the bank,
Well-
undesignated fund.
Someday
Not
we're gonna
cash in
do an
hand.
actual cash basis here, I hope.
no, you can't.
You can't.
Well,
It's not municipal budgeting.
Thank you, State of New Hampshire.
One
Sure.
last question. that I wanted to ask the board. I'd like to come in tomorrow and look at some phone bills. Would that be permissible?
Tomorrow might be difficult.
Why?
Well, which might need some lead time, you gotta give her,
A folder with the cell phone bills?
I'm sorry?
A folder with the cell phone bills, just to kind of come up with what the usage and stuff?
Public document.
Yeah, it's a public document, but you gotta give them a little bit of lead time to go fetch that up.
Is there a problem with, like, seeing the phone calls, like that the police department makes or anything? I'm just asking.
No, unless
Is
they're gonna
that-
sit there and dial every number, a telephone number is not an identifier.
No, I just wanted to make
But
sure.
your phone bills don't have each phone number on it anyways.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
Cell
itemized
phones?
bills.
Cell phones?
Yeah, they do.
Don't we have a plan, a data plan?
We do look at it.
So is it unlimited? I mean, have we ever gone over the data plan? So we pay
I
a
mean, I'd
set
have to look
fee,
back, but I don't think so.
so we set a set fee, so it doesn't matter how many phone calls they make with, so what is the problem? I don't understand.
Just to look at the cost of the phones, basically. Everybody's paying, you know.
What do we use?
Maybe you can lower the plan.
Huh?
Maybe they're looking to lower the plan? I don't know.
That's the thing. We tried this last year to add up the entire phone.
But you know what, when you get down to the point where, how many phone calls are they making? Who are they calling? How many texts are they sending? To me, that's like, down in,
But your concerns, maybe mine notwithstanding, it's public information.
oh, no, I
And they have
understand
an
that.
absolute rate.
But if we're not, if they send 70 text messages, and we're not paying, we can pay the same for 70 as we do for 10, what difference does it make?
I can explain that to you.
But you
If
don't,
someone-
Madeline, wait, you don't need to explain that to us because it's public information.
But I want to say why I want to
And we
see
don't
it.
get to ask you why you
Well, I'm
want
going
it.
to tell you.
You can if you'd like, but you don't
I'm
have
going
to.
to tell you whether you
You
want to
don't
listen or
Giving
not.
mood tonight.
The budget and a lot of departments, there's quite a bit of money spent on the phones. You work a normal shift, 8 to 5, say, 8 to 4. Why are you using a phone that the town is paying for at night? Is it necessary? I can understand the police department. I have no questions with that. But when someone spends 600 minutes on the phone, I mean, are you on the phone constantly at work? Then you're not doing your job. And now you want somebody to help you do your job. I mean, I want to get to the bottom of it, that's all I'm asking.
Mayor Cooper, when I call Richard, and it's almost always at night because that's when the information comes in. When I call the road agent, I call both his numbers. I call his private number and I call the town number, figuring the difficulty with getting him during the day is he's on.
But if you're working, you should be working. You shouldn't be on the phone 8 hours a week. I mean, I wouldn't get my work done if I was on the phone that much.
I can understand.
One of the things we did discover, Dan, when we were asking the different departments was the rescue squad has a phone that hasn't been used in years. And we're charged for it. So it's like, why
But
keep
they
that
also,
phone?
but they also said they liked it because all the numbers were programmed
Right.
in there, and
But then they also told us at the
So-
budget hearing to get rid of it, but then here they said they liked it. So.
I mean, we hear one thing and then they say another
Right.
thing.
But it was
he
a
actually
phone.
dropped it, so.
Right, but it was just a phone.
Which they said they always use their own
You can
because
come in
it's right there.
tomorrow. You can come in tomorrow, I'll have a couple months for you to look at.
Are you gonna stay the night to do that?
Aren't they just in a folder?
Aren't they phone bills like in one folder and electric bills in another folder? I mean,
We can't, we got a conversation going. Folks, when we speak to each other, it has to be audible.
I was saying, the reason being is we were thinking maybe track phones or something like that, because they may not be going over the minutes, it may be cheaper than a business plan, because no offense, business is like education.
They
You buy
charge
something
you
from
more.
an education catalog, they raise you, we may be getting a good deal, but unless you analyze the data, you don't know whether you're getting a good deal or not.
We need to make sure we have good service.
Service is important.
So
The other
I'm-
thing that's really important is January 31st to be the date for a public hearing. Because if we don't hold it on January 31st, we won't be able to hold a second one if there are significant changes to the budget.
Right.
So you're saying budget hearing?
Budget
Budget
hearing.
hearing.
Yeah, because the last
So
one.
we need to figure out everything.
15th of February.
10 days prior to that, to
Right.
be able to post the notice for the budget hearing and have the documents ready so that people can pick them up.
Are you saying we need to hold the first hearing by January 31st?
We need to hold the hearing.
So that we have time to hold another one.
I'm just
Yeah, no,
chuckling
that-
because last year we were still going over departments and.
But aren't you almost there?
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Time is
So does
crunching.
it have to be January
think so.
31? Gonna be
So you have
early.
to give 7 days notice on the budget hearing?
Yeah.
So, and when you post the notice for the hearing, you need to have the documents ready to give people.
Okay.
So,
I'm torn between proceeding with a signature file or smashing my head
I don't know,
against.
is Willie done? He's got a bunch of things on his list there.
well,
it's
I'm gonna
public
talk about
comment.
current use, and we're gonna look at that, and my other one is that we need to talk about the nonprofits, and trying to get better pilots out of them. There's $12 million in assessed property value that isn't getting assessed, so we need to see what we can do to get some money out of those.
Did the folks that the Budget Advisory Committee recommended, did those folks come and talk to you?
No, we didn't have time. We based it on their,
Yeah, okay.
What they send in to the town.
On their paperwork?
Just point of interest, Steve, last year they didn't meet with the budget committee either. They
I know.
met as a group meeting here, so the
Right.
budget was here and the
And
nonprofits
probably,
were here.
with their warrant articles, they probably shouldn't even bother.
Right.
And,
Well,
you know,
although,
well, I mean,
You don't have the authority.
No.
there's no
Right.
authority
There's no
to change
authority.
the lines. We can sit here and ask them when they come in and say, hey, can you stand up at town meeting and say, we're gonna reduce it or whatever, but
but I have
the
to
warrant
sit,
article's the warrant article and
I
it's
have
petitions.
to sit here and vote yea or nay.
And we have the opportunity to ask
recommendation.
them. We have the opportunity to ask these petitioned articles.
Correct. But
If they
there's-
don't show up, we can say no.
Some of those folks,
I just think we put them in a bad position.
yeah, I was just
It
curious
is
if
my
they got.
comment, I think we put the budget committee in a bad position by having them look at the nonprofits that are a petition warrant article.
Well, it was nice when they came in last year to a public meeting and.
The ones that came in last year, the ones that the
You had
budget
questions
committee
on.
had questions on, because we didn't have enough documentation. The ones that submitted, that gave you the documentation, we let them go through just like you guys normally
Yeah.
do. But it was, I think it cleared up some time frame, because again, you're working on a close time frame. That if everything looks above board, that's fine, but if you can't find anything to support what they're asking for, we have them come into the selectmen at that point and give their spiel.
Got anything else?
Let's get on with it so that somebody will be happier.
So, Selectmen's minutes, December 13th, 2018. Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in
I
favor?
can't, I wasn't here, I gotta abstain.
You can still sign.
Still
You
second.
Okay,
can
I'll
still
do it.
second, but you don't.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
Dan abstains. Selectmen's meeting, December 20th, 2018. Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Dan abstains. Accounts payable, whatever's good.
Okay.
Anything you give me.
All right, so let's do this. Sorry.
Timber tax levy. Oh. That showed up today. Let's hear it for $2,863. Motion
Sign
to.
the second page, too,
Yes,
please.
thank you. Motion to approve.
Second.
All, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? My show. We have a intent to cut, map 422, lots 26 and 4. The access is off Mountain Road. Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
You don't have to vote on this because you voted last week, but that's the encumbrances that you all voted on all of those last week. They just needed the signature after the change were made.
That includes the money that had to be added for this year, snow plowing to the fire department, so for they.
That was already in there.
No, I say that is
Yes.
included in what we voted in last year.
The accounts payable check register in the amount of $5,538.39. Motion to approve.
Second.
And the manifest.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Accounts payable manifest dated January 3rd, January 2nd, 2019, $5,538.39. I think I read the one before wrong. Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Could I have the one in your hand, please, Becky?
553899.
Thank you. Read a little louder.
5538.39.
Thank you.
Check register manifest.
Check register, payroll check register,
Accounts payable.
accounts payable check register for, dated 1/1/2019 in the amount of $274,030.69. Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Payment, accounts payable payment manifest dated 1/3/2019 in the amount of $274,030.69. Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Payroll authorization dated January 3rd, 2019 in the amount of $32,523.04. Motion to approve.
Second.
All discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Accounts payable check register dated 1/3/2019 in the amount of $55,050.36. These are prior year expenses payable this year. Motion to approve.
Second.
All discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Accounts payable payment manifest dated 1/3/19 in the amount of $55,050.36. These are prior year expenses payable this year. Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Acceptance of the letter of resignation.
Oh.
We accepted it last year, this is the letter to go to him, correct?
And-
What was,
and-
we accepted it
We
last
accepted it
meeting,
last year,
right,
so
and
it's a
this
matter
is
of
the.
signatures.
Right.
It was last year, yes.
Yeah, it was last year.
I think that's it for signatures.
Bless you.
If there's no further business.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Well, can I just interrupt with one more suggestion? When you vote for an accounts payable manifest or a payroll manifest, would you consider having a year-to-date running total of expenses and percent of the budget, and also income, year-to-date income and percent of the budget total? Every time you do it, so that you guys keep track of, because it shocks me that you're surprised that the income was down $400,000. I would really think that.
You mean revenue?
Yes, I'm sorry, yeah. So it just, if you, every time you went to vote on one of those, you kept track of where you were year-to-date. It might be interesting.
We have to read the first part of your question. We don't get to read the revenue. Point well taken.
Well,
Well-
we do a cash flow on a monthly basis that you get.
Right, you just
We
said.
have
I'm just
you get an
suggesting
income
that you say it out loud, what the year-to-date total is, dollars and percent of total, budgeted for the year, so it's in the minutes, so everybody knows where we are in expenses. It would raise awareness. It's just a weird idea.
All right,
I
wait a
mean, they
minute. Totals-
print it out
so
that
I'm gonna
way,
say
but
it
they
again.
don't do the total spent, they put the total remaining. So each month we get, I get it
You-
too.
you all get it.
We all
Monthly,
get
you
it.
get the
And I go through and say,
expenditures.
how come there's only 3% of this left and it's June? But you're saying,
But the
please
pub-
do
but
the
the public
public for the
public
total. We already get the paperwork, so
So
it's not
you
that
want
much to
total
have it.
spent, tell me again what you wanted.
I was just thinking,
What you're asking for.
expenses year-to-date
Yep.
and percent of the total budget, and income year-to-date and percent of the total budget. Percent of the total projected.
And
not
revenue.
budgeted,
Right.
projected.
Projected.
You have those numbers,
Percent of
where are you
total.
in the year?
Okay,
Sounds good.
we'll work on
Second.
that.
Second, the motion before you is adjournment. It's undebatable. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you for coming.
You
Really,
seconded
really,
it.
really interesting conversation. Appreciate the taking the time. I'm sorry.